Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Law Splaining the Interwebs. I am your host, Nick Rekieta of Rekieta Law, a small law firm in central Minnesota. And with me today is a very special, very busy, and very tired guest, Josh from Kiwifarms.
Hello. I got in there too early. I was anxious.
That was a perfectly executed intro until you. Thank you. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm throwing you off your game.
Yeah, I don't have much game. I don't have to ask my wife. Terrible at it. Terrible. Hey man, so you of course you are in an absolute spotlight right now because your website has seemingly attracted the attention of the biggest and most terrifying of governments that the world has ever known.
Well, you piss off New Zealand and then Papa China might come down and say, "Hey, you can't fuck with our protectorate like that. You gotta back off there. You're not
Yeah.
gonna,
Did they
not gonna ever
haka?
do business here."
Did they haka you via email?
No, they tried. I mean, they sent a couple emails and stuff. Here's how big this was, right? Or how this is. I guess it's still getting bigger. I worked in Australia for a couple of years, right? I worked there from between the ages of 19 to 20, 22 or so.
Sure.
And I worked for a startup company that did payroll, right? And it was a very small company. And then by the time I left, it was processing like 4.5 billion Australian dollars in payroll. So
That's like
I'm quite
38 American.
Yes. But I'm very like they taught me. They dealt with a lot of shit because I was a dumb kid and I didn't know programming and stuff like at a professional level yet. But they put up with it because they were a startup and they didn't have much money and the price was right when it came to me. So I learned a lot of what I know today by working with this startup company. But eventually, they pigeonholed me in doing one thing for a very long time, and it was so depressing working in payroll. Like, you compare what I do now and how robust and weird it is versus how it was like just sitting there working on the same thing every day. And eventually I just got so depressed. They're like, do you even want to work for us anymore? I'm like, nah. But 5 years later, this stuff's blowing up and it's all over the news in Oceania. And I get an email just a couple hours ago from a coworker I haven't talked to in 5 years. Like, are you the same Josh Moon that's terrorizing New Zealand right now? And I'm like, yeah, that is me. So it's very strange how my name keeps cropping up and people keep recognizing me. It's quite nightmarish, actually.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I mean, you want attention, but not that kind. Not that kind of attention at all.
Yeah, I mean, on one hand, it's quite nice to see everybody go like, "Hey, good job putting up the good fight and stuff," and it's very encouraging to see stuff that I say get posted on poll, like, "This is what's happening. This guy's doing this," and everybody's like, "Wow, that's fucking base." I'm like, "Ooh, geez, I didn't ever expect me to be in that position where people actually gave a shit about what I had to say." And like in the past 2 days, I've gained like 500 followers on Twitter and stuff. And like I just keep saying or keep seeing stuff that I've written crop up in publications that I've heard of before, like Zero Hedge, like that just blows my mind.
Ooh, Tyler Durden noticed
Yeah,
you.
yeah, my man Tyler Durden. It's just crazy, and I don't know. I like my little website. You do want attention for it, but you don't want to be like the school shooter website. And considering we've made the news multiple times now because of our affiliations with, like, it's 3 times at this point. It's this guy, which wasn't a user on the site. He was just some guy we had a video of. It was that kid from New Mexico that killed 2 Mexicans before killing himself, and that was called a school shooting. He was a user. He was somebody I knew from like when I was 16. He played the same video games that I did before he became an ED sysop.
Ooh.
And then there was also Lindsay Savannah, who was going to shoot up a mall in Canada. She had a light presence on the forum as well. They didn't actually kill anybody because they blabbed and somebody reported them to the Mounties, and the Mounties intercepted them at the airport, thankfully.
Wait a
But
minute. Someone blabbed. I thought that your little website was all for doxing, rape, and murder. Like that's what I've
Doxing, rape,
heard.
and murder. Is that the
Yeah,
big three? Is that
specifically. I think
the holy trinity of the
well,
Kiwifarms, doxing, rape, and murder?
technically it's rape, doxing, murder, and rape, because of how much they like rape. That's what I hear on the Twitters,
You
though.
know that okay, since we're getting into that already, you know that crazy bitch that keeps tweeting at you made a post about how the Kiwifarms is like a pro mass murder website, and used the video being hosted on the site as evidence of that, and was like trying to tie it into Comicsgate in the most like deliberately awkward way possible.
Wait a minute, are
So
you talking about the hippo with the blue wig?
oh, I don't know what she looks like, but you know who I'm talking about because she's a
Yeah,
crazy person.
the hippo with the blue wig. That's who.
But I made a
yeah.
tweet, and I'm gonna read my tweet because I'm really proud of how asinine and retarded it is. I said, to everyone out there, comics, Western comics specifically, inspired me to be who I am. It was while reading comics written by you know who and other artists like them that I was inspired to do what I do. Comics are very important to me, as is the nation of Israel. So I'm waiting for the. So I'm waiting for this lady to see that and tweet it out. Like, look, there it is. There's the proof. And just so you know, I have literally never once in my life read a comic. I have never once opened the pages of a physical comic book and peered at the images inside. But I'm gonna roll with it because it's funny.
Yeah, that sad hag is she's got a real problem. Her image, her self-image, I think, is entirely reliant on these comic book white knights fighting the good fight on her behalf, hoping for just a little bit of that sweet cosplay side boob or something, right? Like they just really want that, and I think she thrives on that. But the problem is that Comicsgate, I don't know if it's, when I say predictably, I don't mean that derogatorily. I mean it very, very intentionally, and I think that the guys in Comicsgate would agree that they meant it very intentionally too. I had a debate on my channel with 4 people in Comicsgate, and it ended up being quote unquote the end of Comicsgate, right? Like it was the end of it. And then there's this weird thing with like post Comicsgate or Comicsgate Phase 2, where they basically everything started to quiet down. That was like this downhill thing from the quiet Comicsgate part, and they have basically set up their little niche market hobby shop of people. They still market their products to people. They hope to attract more and more, but like the giant commotion rift between the mainstream comics community and Comicsgate is really only propagated by dying attention whores and a few wildly untalented comics creators who will occasionally bring it up. But other than that, like it's almost like a ceasefire, because there's no reason to keep fighting. They've made their point. They've set up their own niche. They're being left alone largely by the industry, as far as anyone can tell, or at least from my perspective. I could be wrong on this, but it looks like they're being left alone. And now this thing is looking for the attention that it was getting, but it suddenly, like Joe Quesadilla or whatever, the CEO of Marvel isn't retweeting it every day, you know, and because there's no reason for him to do that. And so now
he
it's
probably hired somebody who was very expensive, who was like a professional, like corporate PR manager. And like on day 1, he gets in there like, just stop retweeting this woman. Stop it. You're hurting yourself.
Yeah, I think they're starving the anti-Comicsgate community, because they latch on, man. When something comes up, I don't see it too much, because like I said, even though I follow a lot of the Comicsgate people, I don't really see much happening. And these when something happens, or they'll tag me or something, it's just this flurry of white knighterry around it, and the amount of likes and stuff that those little adjacent people are getting, they're diminishing by the day. And I know that that's their food, and it makes me laugh so hard that they're starving.
Yeah, well, it happened with Gamergate, where all these people who literally did not exist Like they did not physically manifest until Gamergate started, and then they crawled out of a different dimension as like slime monsters and started posting on the internet. Uh, those people are now all horribly irrelevant too.
Right.
And
They just
yeah,
they
it-
can't when your entire life is based on feigned outrage about a movement, you gotta they try and make themselves relevant in the next movement. And you can't always be the foil to a consumer movement because you're not going to be relevant to them. Like
the only
she's
person who managed to stay relevant is Brianna Wu. And
yeah.
Brianna Wu has managed to humiliate themselves in new and interesting ways, pretty much month by month.
Thank you
Um,
for using proper pronouns on this channel. I appreciate that very much.
oh no, here's what I do, and I get called out on this, and it bothers me. Like I use they them for anybody who is what I consider a gender blob. And it's like it's the easiest way because it offends everybody the least. Like people still get pissed off either way. Like I'm not a they them, I'm a she her, or people who don't support that kind of language, like just it's a he. Just say it's a he. And it's like I'm gonna go down the line. I'm gonna make everybody not happy, but I'm not gonna piss off anybody. That's my route, and it works in general. It makes it so that my message has the widest possible audience.
Oh, the orange cow says, Nick, please awoo at Null when he comes on.
Oh god damn it!
He loves it so much. What's awoo? Like, I don't. Is that a
There
furry
are
thing?
there are these autistic dog posters on Poll who've thoroughly ruined the President Trump threads with their dog posting, and I hate it. I hate the dog. I hate the dog woman. She's not cute. She's not pretty, and all of them, all the dog posters ruined that thread, and they belong at the bottom of a pit.
Let me read. I'm going to do just a couple super chats that came in before the show, and then I want to get heavy into this New Zealand stuff. And we can talk about that because I think we'll have a good discussion about the propriety of Kiwifarms' role on the internet, I guess. I don't think we disagree about it. I think we can talk about it well. Talonseer says, requesting heads up. We talking about Vic tonight. Only tangentially, if at all. The focus of tonight is not Vic Mignogna. But it should be a good discussion. So if you're here for Vic, stay for the goodness. I like the Spike Man says, hey Nick, know the show will be great tonight. Keep up. Also, do you know what the greatest part of Alabama is? How much they have in common with Japan? And then like a smirk face, which okay. HH says K farmers rise up. Earjuice says Daft Gunt. Got dat Gunt drops tonight. Hashtag Gunt wave yo. And then Painful Buggery, which is one of my favorite names, says, I would like to state that we all love the nation of Israel. Thank you for that. Now we are protected with magical Jew powers, which we're going to talk about later. Because apparently saying magical Jew powers on the stream got under someone's skin. So we'll see.
The same someone or a different someone? Oh, oh, I can't wait.
And Rando number 9 says, despite being only 13% of the population, orcs commit 54% of all crime in Warhammer lore. I don't know. The orcs reproduce at an alarming rate. I don't know if that's actually accurate to the lore. So that's those are the ones that came in at the beginning of this, or right before the stream started. So I wanted to get those out of the way, and then we'll let's start talking about this thing. Okay, so for those of you who are under some sort of rock or whatever out there, for those of you who are under a rock, there's a guy in New Zealand who decided that it would be a good idea to take a bunch of guns, or maybe it was one gun, I don't know, but
it was like an entire car full of weapons. I don't think he reloaded except for a couple of times. He just swapped out guns.
Okay, so he was literally like a Half-Life character running around with just weapons strapped all over. Yes. and or like that scene in the Matrix where they're just throwing guns everywhere when they run out. So he decides to go in New Zealand at this place called Christchurch, and he just gunned down like 49 people, something 50. Like that. 50 people.
It's like 55 injured, and it was 49 dead on scene, and then one died later.
Good Lord. So he does this. The victims are predominantly Muslim, if I'm right.
I
I
think they're
think,
all Muslim. I don't think
yeah.
anybody
I
was.
didn't. I wasn't sure, so I just said predominantly legal cuck word, right? So they're predominantly Muslim, if not entirely Muslim. It was a targeted attack on the Muslim community there in Christchurch, and he, of course, had a manifesto, as people who shoot people seem to do, manifesto, and it was full of memes, and this is very troubling, of course, because now we know that memes lead directly to mass murder. That's the conclusion that was. I mean, they put the real brain squad on that one, I think, and found out that that was true. And then, of course, right before he starts shooting, we found out that PewDiePie was responsible for all of it because he did say subscribe to PewDiePie, and so PewDiePie murdered a bunch of Muslims in New Zealand. That accurate to what happened, as best you can
It
tell?
depends on what Twitter channels you're following, but somebody believes that.
Yeah. So that's basically that's the general narrative as far as I can determine of what happened. Now the video, oh yeah, he live streamed it on Facebook, which means that
Yes.
Mark Zuckerberg is also responsible, but not because Facebook's never responsible.
No, yeah, of course. Nobody, none of the, not YouTube, not Facebook, not Twitter. Nobody is responsible for the video being propagated, except for people that kept it up after being asked to take it down.
Right, and so it was archived. Of course, people realized history was happening, and then that archive was put up on the Kiwifarms.
Actually, let me just stop you there.
Yeah, no, you do it. You tell me.
My origin, the origin story of this is preposterous. I saw somebody said, "Hey, there's a Facebook live stream mass murder." I'm like, okay, and I open the 8chan link, which is where he announced the link to the live stream and linked to his to 80 different archives of the PDF of his manifesto. And I clicked through to the Facebook link, and I'm like, and it's still up. And I'm like, oh shit. So I have my archive tools like on standby 24/7 in case it needs to go. And so I pull it immediately, and I throw it up on the site and create a thread. And I'm just like, hey, this mass murder happened, and here's the video. Within 30 minutes, his entire Facebook page is gone.
Right, because that's one of the great things that they have figured out. If I can interrupt you for a second, they have figured out that if you erase the Facebook page of someone committing a terrorist act, then the terrorist act didn't happen. That's how they first combat it, is to immediately shut that down. For some reason, they don't want the public like going through, even though they're overlooking the vast amount of resource there is to have millions of people reviewing something like this. They don't want people to go through and
they don't want to be associated with it. And it's something that happens. It happens with all social media companies, even if it is a shooter or a perpetrator of some kind of terrorist act. Even if they have nothing questionable on their account, they will delete it. They will delete YouTube channels, for instance, that have no videos and only likes. It's very strange. They don't care particularly what's being posted. They don't care if it's offensive content. They just want anything to do with it scrubbed from their sites. On one hand, you kind of understand. But on the other hand, you don't understand at all, because it's like it's a dead man's Twitter account. Who gives a shit?
right.
Even Gab, like I bring up. I do not like Andrew Torba. I think he's completely two-faced. I think he's incompetent. The guy got $2 million and can't do half of what the Kiwifarms does on a $900 a month budget that I pay out of pocket for. The guy has no principles, has no idea what he's doing. And when the pressure comes on him, he buckles immediately. And we saw that with the synagogue shooter. The guy had a prolific Twitter account full of anti-Semitism and stuff. And as soon as that happened, Andrew Torba immediately bent knee and deleted everything good from his site. And it was just preposterous. I didn't think he'd actually, even as I had a low opinion of him already, I did not think he would do that. And he did. And then he sent out emails to everybody like, "Oh, we're not about this. We're better than this." And it's like, Gab is basically neo-Nazi Twitter. It's I don't want to generalize everybody who's on there, but predominantly that's what it is.
Yeah, I mean it's predominantly right or far or alt right. It's largely populated by people who are either removed from Twitter or who believe that they are likely to be removed from Twitter, or they follow people who are removed from Twitter.
Well,
So
even then, there are people who get removed from Twitter for innocuous comments, and then like they go to Gab and I say, "Can I make a Gab account then?" And they look at Gab and they're like, "I don't want to post here." and
I
and
don't
so
like the Gab interface, which is
no, it was
weird.
better when he started it. The story of Gab has a very strange origin as well. I think he either downloaded some kind of open source PHP project and basically just bootstrapped that as a proprietary service, or he hired people who knew what they were doing early on, and then afterwards started hiring people who had no idea what they were doing. Because when he went into beta, the interface was very material design. It was okay. It's just something that you can figure out easily, even if it's not a very intuitive or great or awe-striking interface. But now it's awful. It's one of the worst user experiences on the internet that I know of.
Yeah, and the to clarify, by the way, I think having a predominant population of neo Nazis or alt right, we're being a little tongue in cheek here, but there's nothing wrong with that. Like there's not like, oh, it's a bad place because of this. It's just the reality of what like Gab is doing, because it's
I'll
not
actually disagree.
oh,
I know
well, you
I don't think
can.
that I don't think that it shouldn't have I think it should have a right to exist, but there are people on it who I like, and they get exiled to the site, and they're surrounded by people who are extremely far right. And when you get cut off into that kind of zone, even if you are there, you don't want to be surrounded by that kind of rhetoric all the time. Like, even if I was very far right,
Well, it's
like,
a
I get burned down on it. It's like I don't want to see this all the time. I don't want to be so angry at everything all the time. And Gab is more so than just being very far right. I see Gab as a very angry place, and it's like I don't want to spend time there.
Yeah, well, I mean, there are disadvantages to being in any kind of bubble. Like, however that gets imposed, even if it's like a refuge of a certain group of people, then you get the thought bubble effect, and that's a problem in general. Because and any singular message repeated ad nauseum is tiring, right? Like, so there, I
Yeah.
get that for
It-
sure. I just didn't want people to think, I didn't want people to get the impression that just because the Gab tends to have this particular sort of demographic, that I think that it's a problem that it's a conceptual problem that should be fixed by some sort of higher order. I mean, I wish Gab was a more I wish it was
all of
just a
them are
better
more
user interface, and
like that.
that's really if it worked the same way as Twitter, I would use it constantly. It's just I always forget to go there because whenever I do, it's a hassle. But that's me. That's me.
Yeah. Well, what I like about the Kiwifarms, and I see people are mad at me, but that's fine. I like to disagree with people, which is my frustration with both Twitter and Gab. Twitter is obnoxiously PC, and Gab is obnoxiously like pro race war rhetoric. Which, again, fine if you're about that. I don't care. I really don't. But I don't want to. I don't want to be on a site that's nothing but that. I have other interests. I have other things I care about. I don't want to. I just don't. I don't want to be inundated by it on my social media. And that's what I like about the Kiwifarms. And everybody seems to find some reason to hate the site. Everybody finds a reason to hate the site because to us, it's a mixed bag. You have people like there are even people who don't like my response in the thread to the New Zealand police guy that contacted me. Like, and that's fine. I'm not disappointed that they have a difference of opinion with how it should have been handled.
I have a
But
difference of opinion. I do. I'm trying
oh
to get
yeah,
my proper Irish whiskey because it's Patrick's. Um, but no, I've got a problem with it. Not really. It's not. I think you misread the. I think you misread the warning, the boilerplate warning in the email. Although it produced a very funny response. Do you want to read the email and the response? Should I put those up on screen?
Yeah, I'll read it.
And hold on, let me get it pulled up on the screen so that the people at home can see it. And I'll give you the pass to say all of the nasty words. How's that?
Sure.
So you can say whatever you don't have to self-censor. That's what I mean. Because I don't think it's gonna be. You're just reading a document here. I don't think the YouTube gods are gonna be too mad about it. Hold on, I almost got it. Hold up. Here we go, so that people can read it. Okay, yeah, I got it. So you can read the thing and your response whenever you're ready, or I could read the thing. I don't care.
I'll read it.
Yeah.
Where'd it go? All right, so this is from a police officer who emailed me from New Zealand and said, "Good afternoon. I'm hoping you can help us with an investigation the New Zealand police are working on. On 15 March 2019, there was a shooting in New Zealand with multiple fatalities at two mosques in the city of Christchurch. The alleged offender in this matter is a Brenton Tarrant, in all caps. At around the time of the shooting, there were a number of posts and links posted on Kiwifarms.net related to the shooting and Tarrant. We would like to preserve any.
Why does he capitalize Tarrant? Like,
I don't know. It has to be like
weird.
a police thing they do, like
Probably.
when they write documents there, and it's just like burned into his brain.
Yeah.
We would like to preserve any posts and technical data, including IP addresses, email addresses, etc., linked to these posts pending a formal legal request. Could you please advise what legal process you require for this request, and also confirm preservation of the data requested pending legal process? Kind regards, John Michael." And then at the bottom, underneath that, there was a footer. Warning. The information contained in this email message is intended for the addressee only and may contain privileged information. It may also be subject to the provisions of Section 50 of the Policing Act 2008, which creates an offense to have unlawful possession of police property. If you're not the intended recipient of this message or have received this message in error, you must not pursue, use, distribute, or copy this message or any of its contents. Also note, the views expressed in this message may not necessarily reflect those of the New Zealand Police. If you have received this message in error, please email or telephone the sender immediately. So
there you go.
As okay, I received this, and I'll say right away what it looked like to me when I read it is, number one, he's saying, I want you to preserve for surrender the contents of basically every post in that thread in reply to the news about the shooting.
Yeah, I think that's an accurate perception.
And the footer to me read, usually these footers are written in such a way that describe that you can't share it. And I think you would argue that he's not saying that. He's saying that if you receive the email in error, you can't share it. You have to notify the sender that the email was sent in error, and you're supposed to delete it because it was mistaken identity or miscommunication.
Yeah.
To me, I read it as both ways. I think he covers that.
So this is a intent fluid footer. You're saying it's
well, basically, because I think number one, it
non-binary footer.
If you did receive the email in error, make sure you delete it. But it also says it may be subject to the provisions. Also, as an addendum, it may also be subject to the provisions of Section 50 of the Policing Act 2008, which to me means this email is police property. So you can't distribute it.
I can't. I mean, maybe in the U.S., people add these types of footers pretty often, and this is the difference, right? In the U.S., you'd have a hard time. You'd have a hard time enforcing that on anything short of like an actual classified document. I mean, you can threaten it all day, but enforcing it would be tough. I looked up Section 50 of the Policing Act of 2008. It's very, very vague. Very loosely worded. It's basically just says you can't have police property without permission or excuse. So I think you're good because you do have an excuse to have it. They sent it to you and intentionally sent it to you. So, but
Well, when I didn't look up the matter of the law, I read the way that it was written to me, indicated to
yeah,
me he didn't want me to share it,
no,
which I was like, no.
yeah, I didn't think you had looked it up. I don't know because I don't practice New Zealand law, but I think you definitely qualify as having an excuse since they addressed it right to you and sent it. But
Yeah,
so
in that interpretation, I would agree with that.
hopefully they won't try to extradite you to New Zealand.
Well,
Peter Jackson pick you up on the way for the next movie.
they're gonna make me play the Hobbit.
Yeah.
uh, so I was a little bit incredulous at this point. I should mention that I've been up for like 2 or 3 days on very very little sleep. So
Oh, yeah,
I'm
because
incredulous.
the farms were getting. My joke is that they were being targeted like there's a 5-year plan, but
I'll explain. Let me finish reading this, and then
Oh
I'll
yeah, sorry,
explain
I'm
the
tangenting too
process,
much.
the timeline, because this comes at the very tail end of the story. But I'll read this because this is what brought about the consequences. I responded, "Is this a joke? I'm not turning over information about my users. The person responsible for posting the video and manifesto PDF is myself. I feel real bad for you guys. You've got a quiet nation, and now this attack is going to be the first thing people think of for the next 10 years when they hear of the name New Zealand. But you can't do this. Tell your superiors they're going to make their entire country and its government look like clowns trying to censor the internet. You are a small, irrelevant island nation, barely more recognizable than any other nameless Pacific sovereignty. You do not have the clout to eradicate a video from the internet, and you do not have the legal reach to imprison anyone or everyone who posted it. If anyone turns over to you the information you're asking for, they're not only cowards, they're fucking idiots." I tell them who I am. I tell them what my processing or servicing address is.
It's up on screen, so I hope you didn't want that private. I mean, it's on the farm, so
it's on the farms and it's in 50 different articles right now. I don't care. I just don't want to read it.
Sure. Yeah. No, that makes sense.
If you're wondering, no, the Kiwifarms has nothing to do with New Zealand. Our name is appointed, and I think that at first he just thought that this is like a community website in the country for people in the forum, like
Right.
in the. So he thought, oh, I can just get the IPs of everybody in the country, no problem, and get hundreds of people to slap with fines and go after the people distributing it and give them up to 14 years in prison.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I'll explain why, because I figured it out why it's so high. But I said our name is a pointed jab at some of the mushmouth autistic people we make fun of. Absolutely nothing about our community is New Zealand oriented. And after this, I kind of reread what I wrote, and I went back up and I reread it, and then I noticed the footer. And I'm just like, oh, you motherfucker, telling me I can't. Up until that point, I had been censoring the email addresses, leaving in the domain, but censoring the actual addressee of the email address because I didn't want to bother the police. But after that, I'm just like, and I don't give a single solitary fuck what Section 50 of your faggot law says about sharing your email. Fuck you and fuck your shithole country, Josh.
Whoa! Order! Hold on. I'm calling this to order. I got a gavel now.
Oh my God.
I'm calling to order. You cannot use this inflammatory, incendiary, and hateful language on my show. No, that was a well-crafted response, I think. And I'm with the thing because some people may be critical of that. I'm not. The way you have to deal with police and government coming at you is with force. You absolutely do. Not like physical force, but forceful language, right? You got to let them know that you're not rolling over, or you roll over. That's one of your two options. But no, it's unequivocal no's, and that's pretty unequivocal. I like it. Thank you for that.
What his reply is what people found really funny, and I've been told from Kiwis that in New Zealand that's basically their way of saying "go fuck yourself" if they reply like that, because they'll say, "No, yeah, of course, thank you." If they really really hate you, they'll say it like that. But his reply is, "Appreciate your quick response. We'll definitely consider what you said. Regards, John." Now, the interesting thing about that is if you scroll up in the first email that he sent me, he sent kind regards.
Yeah.
In the second email,
Yeah.
he has deliberately modified his signature to not only remove the warning about intercepting the email, he has also removed the kindness from his message, and I considered that pointed and left it there.
Yeah, it was good. I love that. I loved his response. Very, very, very police officer like. It's like, oh, okay then. Now I know the score. All right. We'll get
People
back
have
to you.
interpreted it different ways. They said either like he rolled over to it, which I don't think he like cared at all about my response. Or like it's either, in my opinion, it's either he was just dismissive or he was trying to intimidate me. Like, oh, I'll definitely consider it. Wink, wink. I'll
Yeah.
definitely be thinking about this, boy.
Oh, I thought it was a flex back for sure.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
I thought it
You
was.
would know better than I do.
Well, I mean, I just not like not a threat necessarily, but just like he removed the kindness. That's intent. That's very intentional. And he drops the footer, but it's a, oh, okay, we'll consider that. Gotcha. I think it's we understand your position now, and now we have to we have to evaluate what we're going to do. But there's no capitulation in his email either, right? It's very short, to the point, and let you. I'm not saying that he's like they're scheming in a back room. Like, oh, we're gonna get this
Yeah,
guy,
no.
but
It's like,
he
yeah, he's
realized
gonna have
that.
to file a report and think of a different way to go about it.
Right, right. So so yeah, now I guess you have to wait and see if New Zealand can get some sort of a treaty flex to get a Title
Well,
III warrant on.
it's important to realize that New Zealand is what's called part of the Five Eyes. Do you know what the Five Eyes are?
No.
There are five. Now it's six. There are six different countries which participate in this fun little circle jerk. Now, because of our privacy laws in our constitution, our government cannot spy warrantlessly on our civilians.
Right.
However, other countries can. And then our countries can make agreements with their countries to say, "Oh, we'll spy on your citizens, and then you'll spy on our citizens. And when we need that data, you'll just give it to us. And when you need that data, we'll just give it to you."
Yeah.
And that's called the Six Eyes or the Five Eyes. And it's these countries that are working together to trade information to bypass their own constitutional protections against their own citizens. It is
Okay,
one of those
I didn't know
horrible
it by
things.
that. I didn't know it by that title, but yes, I'm very much aware of the information sharing. So, oh,
Yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
So it's like I don't know. He might try to do that and try to get information from the forum. If there is a warrant, like I've basically deleted any data, any kind of identifying information, and put up notices and put up the warrant canary and said, like, look out for that. If it goes away, I received a secret court order. And from what I understand, if you take those precautions and you actively, knowingly, put out your intentions to have as clean a slate as possible and hold as little information as possible on users, plus the warrant canary, the government won't even bother at that point. They'll still have their tapping, their black boxes on the internet backbones and stuff. But as far as directly issuing court orders to seize hardware and stuff, they don't even want to, because it's a public relations nightmare, and you won't get anything out of it.
Yeah, the as for the someone emailed me specifically to tell you that the warrant canaries are ineffective, but I don't know their qualifications at all. So, and I couldn't tell you. I don't deal with. I
So
don't
what
deal with
somebody said is
big
that
state surveillance.
warrant canaries are an active measure. Like, I would have to put out a statement every week, every month, every year, and at the end of the letter, I would say I have been issued no secret court orders. They say it doesn't work if it's in the footer constantly and it's something you have to remove. If you don't say it when people expect you to say it, then it's an issue. And there's nothing they can do to force you to say that you received no secret court orders. But if it's something on the site that's static and they tell you that you can't remove it, that's something that they can legally enforce. At least that's the theory. But the thing is, it's never happened. And I'll tell you right now, I will remove it. If I get an order to remove it, I don't care. I'm gonna take it down, and they can take it to the Supreme Court. I don't give a shit.
Well, the interesting thing about this stuff is what we've seen, what I've seen from FISA and from Title III warrants is that they're typically trying to get new information, and if they don't, if they don't request the old information prior to it being destroyed formally, because you have no duty to honor a court order that you think might be coming in this type of case, right? Like, because you don't know if they're going to do a Title III warrant and demand a bunch of user info, but they might, they could demand, do a Title III warrant and demand access going forward. That's what happened with LavaBit, right? Is that they were asking for information on you, or information and encryption keys on users to monitor emails going in and out after the start of the warrant date. Because they knew that the previous stuff was destroyed and there wouldn't be any use for it. So to me, if the data's already been scrubbed, what are they going to do? Go after data that doesn't exist? Or they could try.
I mean, they
stuff,
can
but
fuck with me by taking my shit and impounding it for however many months or years. I mean, but
Yeah.
the thing is, I welcome that. What my hardware is worth, like at most like $4,000 or $5,000. You go ahead and take that, and we'll see what sort of shit stirs up as a consequence of it. I guarantee it'll be a lot more than $4,000 or $5,000 worth of hardware, and it'll be in Vladivostok next time. You have to drone it if you want to get rid of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
But yeah,
The other thing was they asked me to warn, or they asked me if I would talk about the difference between VPNs and using something like Tor, because I think on the farms you have something talking about how to use a VPN.
Yes.
Up at the top if you're in New Zealand.
Just real quick, the distinction is that a long time ago, the CIA created something called Tor, and it created something called onion routing. So right now, there are literally thousands of computers all over the world that make up what the Tor network.
Right.
And when you create a request over the Tor network, it bounces through a indeterminate number of Tor relays before hitting a Tor exit node, hitting the target server, and then winding its way back up. And because of how it works, it is impossible for any one of those servers to decrypt what you're doing, and it makes it very, very, very hard for it makes it impossible, essentially, for a intelligence agency to backtrack the route of the onion route to the source computer. The only way that they can do this is if the first node in the relay and the last node in the relay belong to a compromised identity. Then they can figure out who it came from and where it's going. But there are some people who theorize that almost every computer in the Tor network at this point belongs to an agency. And a lot of people like to point out that there are rabbis on the Tor project's chair. So I don't know. People like to say lots of things about Tor.
What are they they're gonna quote Torah at the?
Yeah, they're gonna make it. They're gonna make that onion kosher onion.
Yeah,
and a lot of people, kosher onion upsets their digestive system and they don't like it.
I hope they have a cool name for like back tracing a Tor request. Like they call it like something
Stir
like
fry.
like a dark midrash or something.
I was hoping for onion related. They're gonna Shrek it. They're gonna Shrek that onion.
I was going with rabbinical teaching related. I thought that would be good.
But that's the thing. Either people really like Tor and say it's the only source of privacy on the internet today, or they say it's compromised and you're better off just using VPNs. A VPN, by contrast, is very straightforward. You have a intermediary machine and you send your request through that intermediary machine. Now, if Core is compromised, like a lot of people think that it is, then you're better off just using a VPN in Russia or in Estonia or Switzerland or Ireland or Iceland, any country that has great privacy laws that's not a part of the Five Eyes. That's what you want. And a lot of people do use something like NordVPN, which is based out of like Sweden or they use something like Private Internet Access, which is an American company, but they claim that they only operate in countries and they don't keep any logs, or using something like Proton VPN, which is based out of Switzerland, which has some of the best privacy laws in the world. So you can even use both. You can use a Tor connection to connect to your own, VPN machine and double up. I mean, it reduces the quality of your network. But in general, if the government wants to get you, they're going to get you. If the CIA actually thought me of a nuisance, I would be dead already. There's nothing you can do about it. They will kill you if they want to kill you. What you got to do is balance the ease of the government retaliating against you versus your profile. If you are a person sharing a video in New Zealand, all you need is a VPN, because that barrier alone, 100 times complicates the process of penalizing you for that action, and it's not worth it at that point. So I would recommend a cheap VPN. I recommend Private Internet Access for consumer grade VPN stuff, and that should be sufficient. If you are that who's the WikiLeaks guy that's in Russia right now? Edward Snowden? If you're Snowden, you got to use like Tor. You got to use a VPN. You have to operate exclusively from a machine hosted in Taiwan. You have to do lots of shit to make sure that you don't get fucked in the process. So that's the process. Like me right here, again, they can kill me if they want to. But by being in a different country that's not a part of NATO, then I'm relatively safe from these influences.
I think Snowden just calls up Greenwald and has him email tentacle porn to him. That's probably what's going on. For when he needs to use the internet.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like Glenn, I need my fix, and then a bunch of hentai shows up right there. No, I'm just kidding. I don't want to slander Snowden or Glenn Greenwald. That'd be rude. That'd be rude.
Yeah, I mean that's the gist of it. And somebody asked me a question, but I forgot it. It was a really good question.
Oh, that's good. I like that you forgot the good question, because I'm gonna go through some comments quick, and then I want to talk about kind of the ethics of what has happened with Kiwifarms and what kind of your opinion on Kiwifarms' role on the internet.
I haven't gotten a chance to go through my timeline. Do you want to save the timeline for after that or now?
Let me read a couple now, and then
okay.
I won't read as many. Then we'll do the timeline and see what's going on. Lofthouse says, Gloria, you're always on the run now, running after somebody. You got to get him somehow. I think you've got to slow down before you start to blow it. I think you're headed for a breakdown. Okay, thank you. Sakaki Onzai says, Sweet Cheeks had a message for you on her Twitter. Oh God, I hope. Which one? Which Sweet Cheeks was that? Bam says, forever late. How are you like this? Y says, if Nick's not here in 15 minutes, we're legally obligated to leave. Sakaki Onzai says, the Soye's alarm goes ree. Hashtag hurt feels. Ron Toye, he's a spunky little girl, isn't he? The Orange Cow says, ask Null if he's excited for all the media mentions he's getting. Are you excited for all of them?
I don't know. It's always a mixed bag. Like on one hand, you're excited. On the other hand, you're extremely apprehensive.
Sure. Yeah. Because you never know. Like someone sent me a link to an article from News Hub out of New Zealand. Says Kiwifarms website refuses to help police in Christchurch terror case. That's the headline.
That's the extremely negative one that's come out so far. Most of them are like, look at how the police in New Zealand are overreacting and overextending their reach. And then this one comes out and is like, these assholes are pricks. Read this prick's response.
Let's see. The DCV Titan says pound sand. Sounds like that would chafe horribly. Yep. That's how I summarized your email, was pound sand. Scary things are scary says, Nick, give us more Tess Holiday, you feeder. Oh God. No, not right now. M Spec says, hi Nick, I heard through the grapevine that you were contacted by a Mr. Kenneth Irwin Engelhart. Do you mind sharing what he wanted you to talk about? Also, hi Null. No, I do not intend to share what he wanted to talk to me about. Not at all.
I'm just going to say that Kenneth Irwin Engelhart is a Muslim convert who boils hamburgers. That's all you need to know about him.
He boils hamburgers?
See, I can bring up like 8 things about this guy. I can bring up the fact he's like 60 and tries to make friends with every locale. I can bring up the fact that he wants to bang every tranny we have a thread on. I can bring up the fact that he's a Muslim convert that eats pork. I can bring up the fact that he mail ordered a Russian bride who then divorced him as soon as she got her permanent residence visa. But the moment I bring up the fact he boils hamburgers, it's over.
Well, that's just degenerate. Like what's the thought process? I've never heard. I don't know about boiling a hamburger. Oh, wait, you know what? No, I'm lying. I saw it on this place. I don't know if they boiled the hamburger. God, that sounds just disgusting. Oh, I don't even want to think about it. What a waste. What a waste of meat. Yeah. That guy sounds very, very interesting. Automata says, saw that email response from Josh to New Zealand. Them balls. Jira says, on behalf of everyone, let me just say that we all support the state of Israel. Oh, I feel like I read that, but maybe that was a separate comment. Thomas Fitzpatrick says, when's the next Greer stream? # not a date. I'm working on getting one of Greer's former employers on, so it really depends on their schedule. We'll see about that. KTTK says, free cheeseburger bite. Izzy Bolden says, hey, Nick, did you happen to get the message I sent you on Twitter? I think so. It's about astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson being accused of sexual misconduct. And then Izzy Bolden says, I wasn't able to watch Star Trek because of it. Did you see that, Josh, that NDT is accused of sexual misconduct? But I heard he gets to come back. They've like already said he gets to come back after some like penance or something.
Yeah, no, I don't know any of this. Are you talking about like James Gunn or
no Neil deGrasse Tyson?
He was Me Too'd?
Yeah, oh yeah, he's been Me Too'd like 4 times and he's resisted all of them because he's like, no, what you don't understand is that the Earth's gravitational pull put my hand right on that ass.
It's Nick, it's indelible in the hippocampus. Don't you know?
Let me tell you about human relations. Why does he sound like Lando Calrissian to me? He just
probably intentional.
Yeah, I think so. And then let me read like 4 more. Ichicinco Negroni says, have you read the Notorious RBG book yet, Nick? No, I have not. Judicious says, too many Americans died to keep the tyranny of the old world away from us. We cannot dishonor their sacrifice by letting these tyrants dictate now. Manrod Dudeson says, hey, Nick, tell Josh to stop being a lazy Floridian and stream more. And finally, The Bone Zone says, watch The Bone Zone Tuesdays and Thursdays at 6 Central, 7 Eastern. Okay, why don't we pause those for a little bit? You said you had a timeline you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, because it's more than just the Kiwifarms hosted the video and New Zealand told me to take it down. I don't want to take full credit because I know there's no way it's 100% true. But in the minutes after, on hour 0 of this event, BitChute took it down. Mixtape.mo was taking it down. You couldn't find the full copy on 8chan. You couldn't find the full copy on LiveLeak. LiveLeak took it down. You couldn't find it anywhere on all of these websites, but you could find it on the Kiwifarms, and probably because of our name. And how Google SEO works. I think if you typed in like Kiwi Shooter or something, our thread on him would be the top result in the entire world, because there was a point where we had 33,000 unique viewers in like the last 15 minutes. And I was having...
How big of a difference is that from normal traffic?
More than 10 times.
And how big, like, pretend just for the sake of argument that I have no idea anything about what you do as a person who runs this type of website. Like how big of a website is Kiwifarms? Like how much traffic is that on like
we're likely one of the top 13,000 websites worldwide now. So I don't know how much I would say we're medium size. We're a community that if you are in this sphere or angry at this sphere of stuff, you definitely know who we are. If you're a normal person, you probably don't. unless it's incidentally.
Sure.
So to fling us to the forefront of a shooting crisis that the world over is interested in seeing is a big deal. The previous peak that we had was when Medicare did his it's over stream, and he showed posts of his docs and stuff in the thread. We had like 5,500 people on the site at one time. So
Sure.
even from our peak, our prior high point, this brought us to about 6 times that. And it
Wow.
was people. It immediately crushed the server. Like I was doing things on the back end to keep it up so that it could handle that many requests at once, which is like hundreds of requests every single second to the site. And I was trying my best to make sure that was working. But what I couldn't deal with was the bandwidth, because it's a 65 megabyte file, and you multiply that by 33,000, and it's a lot. It's a lot. So, and what people were very rude, and they were posting hot links to the MP4 directly, which just crushed the bandwidth, and that didn't even register on the site as traffic, because it doesn't go through that. It doesn't count as a web request. It's just direct request to that file. So what I had to do was figure out very quickly how to make a torrent file. And I made my first torrent, which was just the video, and I threw it up there. I'm like, look, I redirected people trying to access that file directly to the torrent file. I'm like, look, I do not have the bandwidth to handle this. You have to download the torrent. And within minutes, it was hundreds and hundreds of people sharing this torrent. Well, the thing is, I had just created my first torrent, so I followed a very quick guide on how to set it up, and it suggested a couple of trackers, because the way that torrents work is you have a few central servers coordinating hundreds, if not thousands, of people to talk to each other to transfer the file. Well, the New Zealand police contacted those torrent trackers and said, take this torrent down, and they blacklisted the hash for that torrent so it wouldn't communicate anymore. All four of them went down within minutes. So
Wow.
I had to make a second one, and this time I added the manifesto. So it was 2 files, and I threw that up. And this time I added like 20 trackers, and within a couple hours they were down to 3. Only 3 of them were still tracking that torrent. So I learned how to make my own torrent tracker, and then made a third torrent and threw that up there and made sure that it would never ever go down. And by that point, it had been a full 12 hours of me propagating this file and not doing anything else but making sure that people had access to it. And I think they stopped trying, because it was on sites like Bestgore, and 8chan was chopping it up into 8 megabyte like parts, so that they could post it on 8chan fine. And it was already too late. You couldn't put the genie back in the bottle. But for a while, it really felt like we were the last little thread that was keeping the file on the internet. And I'm sure it would have resurfaced eventually through different mediums, but it would have been maybe a week after the fact if it wasn't any kind of high profile distribution. But because I was coincidentally in the right place at the right time, and happened to download the file myself, and the copy that people have of that file is one that I personally downloaded and distributed. I had the right place at the right time with the right website name to make sure that within hours, anybody could get the file if they wanted it.
And that's crazy. It's fortunate. I'm glad that you did it. So and I think that's a good kind of way to transition into what I want to talk about with this and with you, because I think you'll have a good perspective on it. But how important is it to have that file available within minutes of the shooting occurring? Like, because I mean, like you said, it was taken down fast. I mean, the whole thing, the video, he live streams like 17 minutes, right? Something like that.
The full live stream, I think, is something like that.
Because
I think it's closer to 20, like 21 minutes. I'm not too sure.
sure,
I was pushing this file out without having seen it. I didn't have time.
right.
Like things kept happening. I had to wait for lulls before I could take a moment to actually watch the video.
Yeah, and I haven't watched it yet either. Although I was at a get together yesterday, and someone was showing like a clip of it to someone else on their phone, so I like could see just out of the periphery and kind of from a distance I could see some of it, but I haven't had time to sit down and watch it. I don't know if I'm gonna or not because it's pretty dark, you know. But sometimes I find it important to engage in the darkness of humanity a little bit and remind myself how blessed I am to be where I am and not being gunned down by someone. But you know, anyway. But in light of all that, so let's say it's 20. Let's take it. Let's say it's a half-hour video that it was taken down really quickly after the video stopped, and so from start of the video to action being taken by major movers to get this thing taken down from everywhere. I mean, you're talking in under an hour. That's fast.
Yeah.
How important is it, do you think, to have that video available immediately, and to preserve it? To me, it's very, very important because I think it preserves the integrity of the video. It puts like not that I'm super conspiracy theorist, but it changes the ability to control like the narrative through some sort of edit or whatever. What do you think about that?
What got me is my buddy introduced me to a concept that I had thought of on my own, but he had a name for it that I quite liked. Basically, every time a threat comes to the forum and it challenges it to stay up, I take steps to make sure that that can't happen again, and I make sure that I audit myself and make sure that I stay ahead of what people are doing. And my buddy introduced me to the term anti-fragile, and I quite like that because it's strange. We don't have a word for things that take a beating and then get tougher because of it. There's not really a direct word for that. And with this, it's like whenever anything happens that people don't want you to see something, I doubly, triply think it's important to get it out because it's like nobody would have cared. They could have just Googled it and found it on Lively, within minutes. The fact that it was so hard to find increases the value of the file tremendously because it makes you wonder, what is it specifically about this shooting that's different than every other mass homicide that we've had in the last 10 years? Because they played footage of 9/11 over and over and over again for months and months and months, and you saw 3,000 people die every single day, multiple times per day for weeks as an American.
Yeah, and sometimes they would play the like because you could make the argument, well, I mean, intuitively that 3,000 people are dying, but you don't really see it. But they would play that guy jumping out the window over and over again, and stuff like that. So it's not just that you're seeing the building being destroyed and knowing that people are dying. You're actually like on major news, they're playing that video of the person jumping.
Yeah,
and stuff like
to
that
the point where there was a company, I think it was Sky News. Sky News New Zealand has banned Sky News Australia from broadcasting on its networks because Sky News Australia is playing fragments of the video, and Sky News New Zealand is not tolerating that.
Wow, I didn't realize New Zealand could flex on Australia.
Well, apparently they could. Apparently this is the strain in the Anzac cookie. This is how the cookie crumbles, right? This is how the biscuit falls apart. And I heard initial reports that people were having trouble accessing the site from New Zealand, and it's true that they have. And I don't know. This email did not get published as much as the other emails, but let me read this actually. So I sent in a complaint about them using what's called DNS hijacking or DNS black holing. And basically what happens is when you connect to the internet, your ISP provides you through your modem domain name servers so that when you type in google.com, your request for google.com goes to their domain name servers, their DNS servers, and then they give you, by asking a bunch of different other servers, IP addresses, and your machine just immediately associates the numbers to the name and replaces the name with the numbers internally when it handles the request, so that you can connect to a website without having to know its IP address. And it's very important. It's very fundamental to how consumers use the internet. And when you rely on your ISP's DNS servers, which is a redundant word, but it's kind of weird just to say rely on their DNS.
Yeah.
But it's like a automated teller machine, ATM machine. But when you rely on those, they can refuse to answer a query. You type in kiwifarms.net, it goes to something like Spark NZ in their DNS, and they say, "Oh, I don't know what that is. I've never heard of no kiwifarms.net. Sorry, there must not exist." And then people think, "Oh, is the website down?" Because it's not like an error message. It doesn't say error 429. This is blocked by the government. It says error 404. We can't find this website,
Right.
which is very insidious. More so than just outright blocking it, in my opinion. And it's hard to tell if this is a conscious effort by the ISPs themselves or if this is a request of the government. Because it's not just Kiwi Farms, it's not just 4chan, it's also 8chan, and it's Dissenter for some reason.
That's the Gab commenting
yes.
Software where like now is that where they let you comment on any page, like so they can't disable the comments? That's a pretty funny thing.
It's a decent idea, but as always, because of the interface and how it works, it's just shit. But it would be a great idea if it actually functioned. But so they blocked that anyways, and they blocked Zero Hedge, because Zero Hedge reported on the fact that New Zealand was blocking certain websites through DNS. So it's preposterous, and I have a tweet up on my Twitter account that explains how DNS hijacking works and how to get around it. And the long and short of that is, all you have to do is find out how to replace your DNS servers with third-party servers. And the most obvious answer for most people is Google's. Google provides their own public DNS, which is 8.8.8 and 8.8.4.4. Very, very easy to remember. So I would strongly suggest, if you are in New Zealand, in fact, it doesn't matter where you are, do not use your ISP's DNS server, because what they're doing is they're spying on you. You know, you go to bigtittygothgf.com and they know that your IP requested that name resolution, and they know what websites you're going to because of it. So don't use your ISP's DNS server. It doesn't matter what country you're in. Find out how to use a third party's DNS, because even if it's not like absolute government level privacy, it's enough ambiguity to keep these companies from spying on you easily.
Yeah, and you I guess check with the terms of service for your modem rental to see if that's actually available. I got a router from my my internet service provider, and I didn't want it. They're like, no, it comes with it. I'm like, but it's not better than mine. He says, oh yeah, it is. Of course I look it up. No, it's not. Not that I have the greatest router, but I have a pretty good one. And then I look at the thing, and he plugs the router in or whatever, installs it, and starts it running. And the first thing that comes up is a terms of use for the router that they gave me. And I'm like, I don't want a terms of use on my router. What is this garbage?
Hate the ISPs in America. This is why I go to Philippines, I go to goddamn Russia, and the ISP theirs are completely unregulated, and you have a lot of issues with like net neutrality stuff not existing in these countries. But guess what? All the modems are third party. They're not locked into weird contracts. They're not proprietary. They're not submodels that belong specifically to Comcast. You have to enter in login details when you connect, because they don't know how a router belongs to a customer. You have to use your login information to tell them that this device actually belongs to you, and you're paying for it with your service. In America, they allot you a modem, and you are required to use their modem. You do not have a choice in what modem to use. You do not get to replace the firmware on your modem. That modem doesn't even belong to you. You're renting it from them. So if you wanted to smash it, you can't, because then they would sue you for like $200 in damages. And it's completely preposterous. You don't have to sign in once you're using that modem, because they know it belongs to you, because it's in their database. I hate the ISPs in America, they're awful, and they spy on you, and they monopolize entire regions, and they should not be allowed to exist as they do.
Oh, and more importantly, the government is perfectly okay with it.
Oh yeah, of
they
course.
enforce it. That's what pisses me off.
Yes, it is a government. No monopoly can exist without government regulation. Monopolies always stem from government regulation, and ISPs are no different. They have contracts that give them exclusive rights to certain areas, and it's awful.
Thank you. I always get dumped on when I say that there's nothing inherently wrong with monopolies. It's the fact that they're propped up by government power that's what makes them wrong. Because otherwise, they do have to bow to the market in some way eventually. But that's a different discussion.
People saying that you're using your own modems, I'm real happy for you. You better love that while it lasts, because it ain't going to last too long. They want you to use proprietary systems that you pay them for the privilege of being forced to use.
Yeah, I agree. I had my own modem for a while, and it just was never getting quite the best performance. I don't know why. It was weird, even though it was better. It was a better quality modem than what was available from my ISP, but it just wasn't ever enough. For some reason, it just didn't get the same results that you get with one of theirs. Very weird. Tyrus Winter, he tagged me and this is kind of he says it's hugely relevant, and I think it is. He says, in Australia, our ISP Telstra has updated their routers to override your PC settings for DNS. So
yeah, it does depend. I've noticed because there are two different ways you can set your DNS. You can set it through your drivers on your computer, or you can set it on your modem or router, or modem router combination thing. And I've noticed that a lot of the times the routers like to override the drivers on your computer. And the best way to get around that, if you're having that problem, is to use a VPN, because then the VPN, it has to be on your desktop and not like a browser extension usually. But then your VPN is going to handle all those requests for you, which is why I really advocate for VPNs, because they're very consumer friendly, and they try to undo a lot of the damage that ISPs do.
Yeah, that's did you ever answer the question? Did you answer my question? How important is it to have this thing available right away? The video. I don't think you did. Important. Clever dodge. What are you hiding, Mr.?
I mean, what do you want me to say? Obviously, I think it's important for people to have access to anything they want, anytime they want. That's what I believe about everything. It doesn't matter if it's horrific, gruesome, like Mexico cartel violence. It doesn't matter if it's like animal abuse. The only thing that I don't extend that to is real child pornography, because there's a victim there that is hurt by the aggregation of that content, and there's no valid reason to have that content.
Yeah,
that's the only thing I extend that to. Everything should be accessible all the time.
I agree 100%. As long as it's not illegal. And when I say not illegal, I mean in the States, because I don't actually trust any other country in existence right now that has the free speech protection to say that that illegal means that it should be illegal. But I'm in the same spot. Like child porn, no. I'm not a proponent of child pornography or its possession. I don't think it should be protected by the First Amendment. And that's a very hard conclusion for me to come to, because I think everything should be protected. But that one, I definitely see the real reason that it doesn't. It's not extended that same protection. But
BitChute's also blocked by the DNS thing. Somebody was very, very eager for me to mention that.
Okay.
BitChute got hit hard, and they actually took the video down. And despite that, their DNS blackholed in New Zealand. So
never capitulate. They don't.
Well, actually, I forgot to read my my emails from the company. I sent emails to all three. There are 6 ISPs in New Zealand. I contacted 3 of them that people said had been DNS blackholing, and because the other 3 haven't been mentioned, I'm pretty sure it's a voluntary action by those ISPs and not one that's legally enforced. I sent an email asking all of them, what's up with this? Why are you doing this? And the one that replied was spark.co.nz. And Stephanie, the customer resolution champion, is her title, which is quite nice. It says, "Hi, Joshua. Our cybersecurity teams, who have been working since last night to help stop the spread of terrorist, extremely distressing and disturbing material that was available online after being posted on various overseas websites. The team have been moving fast to locate content, applying temporary blocks. Remember that, temporary blocks, to prevent our customers from accessing these sites. Very blunt. If we are able to, we are contacting the website owner. I never got contacted. And if they remove the content, we will look to restore access to the site. While it is impossible for us to stop everything, we have slowed down the spread of this material in New Zealand and made it more difficult for people to find it. Many of you will appreciate that restricting internet content access is an extremely rare move, which raises concerns about internet freedom and so on. We'll brush that aside. It's all that jazz. But I think you will agree it was absolutely the right thing to do in these extreme circumstances.
We think you'll agree.
Oh, Stephanie thinks I'll agree. I was much nicer to her than I was to the police. We have led and coordinated an industry response to this issue, with all our major broadband competitors taking similar moves to block these websites. And I replied, is there a timeline for the rescinding of these blocks, or does it depend on the operator's cooperation with you in removing content? And she replied, she did. Hi, Josh. From our CEO's comments, I believe it will be dependent on them removing the content.
Wow.
So there it is. It is an indefinite, industry-wide coordinated block against any website propagating this video in New Zealand.
Why are people so bad at this? Like, what? Honestly, what? I don't understand how governments, how law enforcement, how major companies, even in private matters, how they get this wrong. But if you do an organized campaign to shut it down, it's going to spread. Otherwise, people they'd consume it and then they'd move on, right? Like that's how the overwhelming majority of anything goes. Western society moves on from even the most horrific tragedies at lightning pace these days. We don't, not to downplay this at all, but in a week, I don't think people are really going to be, well, maybe 2 weeks.
Well, I'll give you some numbers I can give you.
Yeah.
Our site had 33,000 active users. The hours of now it's down to a very homely 2,700. So even the site's importance in this has completely passed over, as other sites have taken up the mantle of spreading the video. But the torrent that I had is up to 1,776 seaters, which is very awesome, and 291 peers, which is down from like 8,000 seaters and multiple thousands of peers downloading this video. So even that, the torrent has tanked by magnitude, because it's over. They're done with it. They saw it, like, oh, this is shit, and are done with it. And a lot of it wasn't. I didn't see many New Zealand flags. I don't think the people in New Zealand really had the stomach for it. They didn't want to look at that, because that's their backyard. Most of the people I saw looking at it were Americans, were Brazilians, were Chinamen, or Indians,
dude,
Russians.
No, I'm just kidding. I was gonna Big Lebowski you, but never mind. It was.
You can't call them Chinamen.
I was gonna say, dude, Asian Americans, please, but they're literally from China, so.
My grandmother calls them Orientals, and my mother takes such issue with that. She's like, they're not Oriental. You call a rug Oriental. They're Asian.
I was literally quoting Big Lebowski, because he says Chinaman, then he says, dude, Asian American, please, and then like 5 minutes later, he's screaming. The character who said that is screaming Chinaman about people he was fighting in Vietnam. Never mind. It's great.
I watched that movie, and I don't know my liquor too well, because I'm not a bar person. I don't ever have I don't like to go to bars, except for recently. I've been going to bars to get like one drink with my meal, right? And whenever I go, I instinctively order a White Russian, a Belaruski, because of the Big Lebowski. It's a good drink. I'm sure there's better drinks, but my drink of choice is always the Belaruski, because of the Big Lebowski. I have no other reason for choosing that drink.
Yeah, it's too good of a movie to not have that. I don't like coffee, so I don't like the Kahlua that's in the White Russian personally.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
I can't do any coffee. I hate it so
I,
much.
doesn't isn't the liqueur in the Black Russians?
I don't know. I thought
I
White
don't even know.
Russians were Kahlua, cream,
Yeah, you're
and
right.
vodka.
There's a coffee liqueur that's in the White Russians. You're right.
Yeah,
Sorry, I'm brain damaged.
I
I'm
know. I
fried
know.
right now.
It's okay. It's okay.
I didn't get to mention this. If I sound sick as shit right now, it's because I have been up for so long and I've been stressed out over this for so long that I think I've caught flu symptoms because of it,
Yeah.
which sounds very sad.
So what about this? The people are sending this to me, and I saw it before, although I'm having trouble pulling it up because something weird is happening. This the kid, some kid, a teenager who's 18, so not really a kid, I guess, he's a man,
Mm.
accused of sharing a live stream of the Christchurch massacre and writing "Target acquired" next to a photo of a mosque, faces 14 years behind bars, and
Here is the story with that.
he's
Uh,
denied bail
yeah.
now. So
Yeah, they're overreacting hard. They don't have like they never had a shooter before for like 20 years. They have no idea what to do with themselves right now. They're trying as hard as they can to overreact to reassure the community that they're trying their best because of how bad their response time was and how high profile this was. So they're throwing the book at them because of it. What's the way that this was explained to me was that in New Zealand they have a censorship board, and the censorship board and the
why
powers
wouldn't
invested.
they? Why wouldn't you have a censorship board? It only seems rational and logical to have a literal board of people to determine what is acceptable for everybody else to see.
The reason why it existed historically, and as far as I know, ever has been to stop the propagation of child pornography. So the anti-child pornography laws are what they've empowered this board of censorship with. And they have extended it to include the shooting footage. And what he's essentially being charged with is propagation of child pornography because it is covered under the same powers. So they're throwing one of the hardest. I imagine what is one of the hardest charges they have in New Zealand. 14 years. You don't get 14 years for much in a socialist country.
Yeah, no kidding. I think Norway or whatever the top like the top you can get is 20 or 40 years. I think
Yeah, like a life sentence is 20 years, and
yeah, I
and
think Breivik
and
or whatever
only
got 20 years in
in only
Norway.
some countries. Well, the thing with Breivik is that they will review him at the end of that sentence to determine if he's fit for society, and then they will extend it by a maximum of 20 years, and then at the end of that, he's up for review again to see if he's fit for society. So they're going to keep him forever. But New Zealand, as far as I know, does not even have the review process. The maximum is 20 years, no death penalty. So this guy might actually get out, as from what I've been told. But you have to put that into comparison. This guy is getting 20 years for killing 50 people. This kid is getting 14 years for the dissemination of banned material
But
for
I
the
hope
recording
you
of it.
I hope you realize what you just said. You left out the most important part. The real crime is he posted a picture of a mosque and said "Target acquired." That we cannot allow that sort of hateful rhetoric. We can't allow that double plus ungood think going on in this thing. Like it, I mm, I hate this so much, man.
Well,
I
it's a
do.
good thing. It's a good thing he didn't call the mosque a shithole, because then they'd
Oh
become
yeah,
that.
yeah. No
You have
kid.
the SWAT team coming down from the helicopters and stuff. He'd be done in. He'd be lucky to survive that.
Yeah, it's crazy though, because like tasteless jokes or even tasteless non-jokes, even if he meant it, it's still speech, you know? He didn't go murder the people yet. Maybe that's his deep plan. I'm sure that's what they'll try and say, whether he
I
meant
think
to or
even in the
not.
U.S., if you were to paint a picture of an actual mosque and put a circle over it and share the video and then say target acquired, you'd probably get shit for that. That's you
You'd
can't
get
you
you'd
can't
get dumped on, but you wouldn't be facing prison time.
You would definitely get a visit from the FBI over it. You would 100% get a visit. You might get detained for like they might have a reasonable suspicion for you to carry out some plot, so they detain you and search all your stuff and see if you have weapons and stuff, and you might get put on the list. Yeah, I don't know. That's you don't do that.
I don't think you should
I would
do it
advise against
either.
you.
I don't think you should do it either, but it shouldn't be it shouldn't be illegal. In my opinion. That's just where I am, because it's still speech. And you know, our incitement laws are they're so limited to, are you able to incite someone to violence right now, in proximity, and do you have a reasonable expectation that what you say will cause said incitement, and you have to intend it.
If it's immediately after the greatest mass casualty event in New Zealand's history, I would
I don't
I
think
hate
it
to
should
be
be
on the
I don't think it should be illegal, because here's the question, like, is he trying to incite someone to do another attack on this particular mosque, or on a particular mosque? Was it the same? It doesn't say if it was the same mosque, was it? That he did the picture of?
if it was the same mosque, I would err on his side. If it was a different mosque, I mean, that's definitely there to scare the shit out of those people.
It is. I'm sure. Yeah, 100%. It's there to scare people, and yeah, maybe he does get a phone call or whatever if he's in the U.S. Maybe he does get a call or a check from law enforcement. But does he go to prison for it? No. I think he beats any charge that they bring up.
I think that he'll plead.
Oh, maybe he would. Yeah. not if he's my client and he's got money. Then he's pleading. No, because I mean, to me, like, the incitement in the U.S. is so. I mean, you have to have to get an incitement charge. Not only do you have to like post the picture of them, and we're talking over the internet. I don't think there's any incitement charge that's ever successfully been done online.
That's a good point. If it's on their Facebook page or something.
I think the only way you do it is if you have people who are in the area with the capability of conducting the attack, and you post it like target acquired, as in go, and like that's the only way I think you get it online thing. Because like under Brandenburg, the Brandenburg test would have to have you'd have to be present, and the mob would have to be present, and the victim or the target would have to be present, and your words would have to incite immediate, imminent violence against the victim. Because I mean, we're talking even hours removed is too long for incitement. It's so crazy strict. The only reason I'm bringing this up is because there's a complete dunce on the internet that or on Twitter that's been saying that I was inciting people to harass him, which is just stupid. Very, very stupid man. I'm sure I'm going to get another ethics complaint for from this guy, but people misunderstand incitement in U.S. law because our speech protections are so strong that it has, like, you have to be inducing it intentionally, and it has to be reasonably able to be carried out. Like, so a normal person would have to look at it and say, yeah, that could have actually happened from those words. So I think maybe he gets a cursory check from the FBI, especially in the context of there was just a terror attack, someone saying target acquired. We got to find out right away if there's actually a target being acquired, if he's part of some network or something. Sure, I get that. But does he get charged on it? No, I don't think so. Maybe it's disorderly.
Based on the context of where it's posted, I'd still say that if it was posted directly on their Facebook page hours after the shooting, I don't know.
I think he might draw charges in that case.
Yeah,
I don't know if he'd lose or not. It's hard to say these days.
I think they would scare the shit out of him, and they'd get him to plead.
Yeah,
because it would be like,
in the U.S., you're not limited to that 20 years. This is an act of domestic terrorism. You're thrown in a brig, and
it's like, we got some options for you, boy. You can spend this time in low security prison right here at home, or we can send you up to the maximum security prison by Dearborn. And you can serve your hard time there for threatening to shoot up a mosque, and see how that goes over. And then you'll just plead immediately.
Yeah, that's yeah, that wouldn't go very well. That wouldn't go very. That's how they do it, right? Like that's
Yeah. Because people were posting on the Kiwifarms. They were saying oh, because he did the OK hand sign that people say is a white power symbol, and they were trying to make the meme that like, oh, this is how big his asshole is going to be after his first week in prison. I'm like, I'm sorry, we don't use male on male rape as a punishment anywhere in the world except in America. That's the only place in the world where we use sodomy as an extension of our justice system to make our prisons intimidating.
Yep. I don't know if it's a terrifying thing though. We'll just say that.
Yeah, it is.
It's
Our prisons are horrible.
they are, yeah.
It's just the worst shit. I don't know how we get the gall to condemn other countries. Our prison system is. I would rather be in prison in fucking Brazil, or because at least I don't know. At least you can join a gang or something in Brazil and pretty much have run of the prison.
You got to go to rich people prison. That's where you got to go. You got to get that white collar treatment. You got to get to what was it? Epstein prison. That's the way to go.
Yeah. And you gotta have real money for that shit though. You go to Al Capone prison where you have basically like your own apartment.
Yeah, I'm sure Cohen's gonna get the cozy prison. I'm thinking because of his statements about Trump, right? Like that, because that's what they wanted. They wanted all. They're like, plea this, and then you come in and say a bunch of stuff that we wouldn't accept anywhere else except in Congress, and then we'll get you in the cozy prison. But yeah. Gross. Okay, let me read a couple more chats here, and then let's talk a little bit more about this, and then I wanna read a letter to you. I have a letter to share.
Okay. Oh yes. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Where did it go? I lost my spot. Mort Zula says thank you. He donated for the Oxford comma in the stream announcement. I try to always use an Oxford comma.
I am also a proponent of the Oxford comma.
And in legal documents, no matter what you feel about the Oxford comma, in legal documents, always use an Oxford comma. Always. Nope. There's no argument. Trust me, there is no argument. You always use an Oxford comma. No ambiguity in a legal document, ever. Because it could cost you $10 million. Always Oxford comma. Rick Nikita says Renfamous is a beached whale. I don't know if they let her on beaches. GFK1 says, please stop reading so many /all super chats. Your streams are already plenty long. Take a page out of Null's book. I don't know if I want to do that. That's part of the stream. So I don't know. I am thinking about it because there are a lot lately.
It's a very like my policy is I read them as they come in, and I'll try to shout them out. But I mean, I didn't get that many, right? I would get maybe like $20 worth in an hour, and so that was possible for me. But I can see both sides. Like as a streamer, you really want to give people their money's worth, but at the same time, it drags on if you have to read every single one.
Yeah, no, guys know that I'm struggling with the decision. I really am, because I've had the policy forever that I read them all, but at the same time,
it has to go up to the Supreme Court and next head.
You expect a decision in 4 to 8 years. And Ginsburg will still rule on it posthumously.
Oh no!
Shane Quigley says, "Tell Null I said hi RP with me. Hi RP with me." There you go. John Smith says, "God bless." Back to you, buddy. Siren Jag says, "My last tweet to Ren. Why would I sue you? I will leave that for people you actively harass. I'm busy with my job. You're busy tweeting 273,875 times a day and monitoring EVS's stream for tweets every 3 minutes. I think we should see other people." Pajazzle donated, didn't say anything. Thank you. Internet Freak says, "To Josh, borscht mukbang when?"
Oh geez. Okay, so people want me to eat borscht on live stream. I don't know if I have the audacity to do that. Those videos freak me out.
Would you eat it or would you feed it to someone?
Would I feed it to somebody? Borscht is a very healthy economic meal, and I think if you're gonna feed some fat chick, you would need like deep fried butter or something. You would need something grotesque.
Have you ever seen what's it that Honey Boo Boo or whatever when her mom made sketty?
Sketty?
It's
She
like,
always made spaghetti.
yeah, it's like noodles, sugar, tomato sauce,
Yeah.
and butter.
That's the really shocking thing is how sweet everything in the U.S. is. Like you leave the country, you go anywhere except the Philippines because the Philippines puts sugar in every goddamn thing more than the U.S. Um, but it's shocking. Like even eating a Domino's pizza between the U.S. and like Australia, they put sugar in their pizza, and you can taste it when you eat a regular pizza that doesn't have the sugar. It's like this is actually like a savory meal that's not sweet. This is
Yeah,
incredible.
I don't like sweet in my meals. I really don't. I'm not a big fan. Like anytime I go to some American place that serves an Asian whatever, which just means they use like a sweet spicy sauce, I burn it to the ground. It's garbage.
Yeah.
Church of Kiwi Archive says, "Feed us, Everlord. We are starving." Goru says, "My
Erver.
uncle." What?
Overlord. When you see it,
Overlord.
yes.
Oh, because you can't say over. I got it.
I've been working on my enunciation, but yes, when I'm casual, I'm just like, yeah, it's overrated, and people bully me about it.
That's good. They should. They should. Goru says, "My uncle is the 68th most powerful paralegal in Canada. Be careful, drunken blackface lawyer. Your days of chair rights advocacy are numbered." Oh, thank you. Pajazzle, thank you for the donation. Y says, "Don't AWOO, $350 fine." Toya says, "AWOO, 56709." Cringe Lord says, "Do you expect us to actually trip your canary?" Expeditus says, "You can't stop the signal." NWA Bud NWA Budike Barbosa says, "Josh, you don't like AWOO because she's not fat enough." Okay.
I don't like it because it's obnoxious. It makes me sad. All my President Trump threads on Poll are about dogs.
I'm gonna read 3 more, and then I want to do the whatchamacallit, finish up and then do the letter. Moist John says, "Ironic that the site being sought out by U.S. law enforcement for copies of New Zealand shooting footage is called Kiwifarms. Kiwis are stopping valuable info." No, that wasn't U.S. law enforcement. That was New Zealand law enforcement.
What he's referring to is that after the shooting, I was contacted by 4 different police departments asking for the footage because they were going to use it for active shooter training lessons. And
did you put a price tag on it?
I did not. I'm not like that. I believe in free information, even for the police. Everybody gets the same treatment in the Joshocracy.
They got that sweet government money, though. You could.
I probably should have asked.
You could have taken some money and right out of like some municipal library.
But you're on the Fed payroll forever. Then
true.
Then you're marked.
True. Then you're done. Sonic the Hedgehog says, "Suck my nuts, Ron Soy." And then finally, A Piece of Wood says, "Null is the hero we need, but not the hero we deserve. A true patriot. Null, just curious, have you ever been in contact with WikiLeaks? What are your thoughts on them? Farmers rise up. PSU normie B-words need to stop giving Google money and get on Streamlabs." So there you go. What have you been contacted by WikiLeaks ever? And what are your thoughts?
I've never been contacted by any member of WikiLeaks to the best of my knowledge. I have mixed feelings about WikiLeaks, but in general, I believe the freer the flow of information, the freer the people. And I think it's very hypocritical. It really highlights how pathetic people are, because back in the day when WikiLeaks was dropping all this information on George W. Bush and his abuses of people and the Guantanamo Bay things that were happening, everybody was like, oh, all the liberals were like, oh, they're so amazing. They're really fighting for freedom and justice. And then when WikiLeaks drops things that incriminate Hillary Clinton, they're like, oh, they're Putin bots. They're working for the Kremlin. And then when WikiLeaks drops something on ICE, all the Trump people that love WikiLeaks are like, they've been compromised by the government. The old WikiLeaks wouldn't have doxed all the ICE agents. It's like, shut up. Shut up. That's how you know that WikiLeaks is a genuine organization, because they piss off everybody. That's the real litmus test.
Yeah, it is. I was, and I will freely admit that when WikiLeaks was first dropping stuff and I first heard of them, I didn't look into them at all. I wasn't, this is so long ago. I was pretty young. I just immediately thought, I don't like them giving out information that compromises U.S. soldiers, for example, because that was the narrative, right? Like that they were giving away troop locations over in Afghanistan and Iraq. I don't know if that was true or not. That's just what I heard, and I was like, oh, I don't really like that. But then, as I heard about them later, and I was a lawyer and cared, and kind of looked into it, I'm like, no, actually, I like what they do quite a bit. So if that's inconsistent, then I'll just say I evolved on the subject. But it's not that I would actually just blame myself for not being as informed well before I was a lawyer and didn't even look into it. I just took the accusations at face value. They could have been completely false or misunderstood. So, but yeah, no, I'm for the exchange of information. I think our government needs to be more transparent. And the problem with a non-transparent government, even in the tiny parts where they're like, well, for national security, we're not transparent, is that they label things national security that have nothing to do with it. And there's no way for you to know about it until it's leaked. And that's like the FISA court in general. Literally a national security issue to have the FISA court existence recorded and to have the judges' identities who are issuing Supreme Court level decisions that you can't read, but will apply to you if you're ever brought up on criminal charges regarding this stuff.
There was a raid on CIA, like I think it was a CIA office building, not FBI, and it was just like hippies. They did a smash and grab. They grabbed every document they could from this building, and it was stuff about MK Ultra. We only know about MK Ultra because a bunch of Greenpeace hippies smashed and grabbed from a federal building, and
Right.
it's like imagine what the world would look like if we didn't have leaks. We need people to leak things. We need the government not to be able to trust itself so that it doesn't even bother, because the things that it has attempted to do under the illusion of security is already preposterous. I want them to be afraid of their own workers and stuff.
Oh yeah, I mean we were sending troops to Uganda, I think, under the AUMF that was supposed to apply pretty limitedly to Afghanistan, and then maybe surrounding countries that had Taliban or Al Qaeda elements to them.
Yeah,
Like,
and even recently, we with the LinkedIn leaks that people were upset about because it showed the names and addresses of ICE agents. It also demonstrated that the federal government was looking to hire people in the eastern side of Ukraine, very coincidentally. So, yeah, no, they have their hands in every pot, and people need to leak it, and they need to leak it with such ferocity that the government has no way of retaliating.
well, there you go. That's enough on WikiLeaks. So, did you have anything else specific you wanted to say about the New Zealand incident right now? I mean, I think we're on the same page. Everybody needs access to the information they want to consume. And then your argument, and I echo the argument, is that the child porn being the exception because of the victim, the lack of the ability for the victim to have anything to do with it, and the amount of damage that it causes to victims, just tips the scale to the point where that shouldn't be available, and governments might be right to censor that. But everything else basically is like, why would you censor it at that point?
The one message I would like to add as a very small addendum to this is you wouldn't know it reading my response, but I really I like New Zealand. I don't have anything against the country of New Zealand. I think is beautiful.
He's got a New Zealand rifle to his head right now, I bet.
No, I was thinking for a while because of Kim.com is there, Mega is there. It was considered one of the best countries for privacy for a long time by really credible people. And I was considering moving there, and I'm glad I didn't. I mean, because I would be screwed right now. I'd be facing 14 years in a very comfortable apartment prison cell. But like, it's frustrating because you can tell that if it was anything else, they would have principles, they would have reason, they would have thought things through before acting on them. And it's just because of how intense and high velocity this is and how it was inflicted upon them, that they didn't have the mechanisms in place to react reasonably. And as a result, they've exacerbated it and made their country look terrible in the process, potentially driving out a lot of high-tech industry that they're bringing in. I get emails because I signed up. I was interested in moving there. I was on their mailing list for like employment options for tech industry stuff, and they're like, all this tech is moving to New Zealand, and it's a good privacy country. It's a really growing rapidly in the tech industry. And it's like, now if you're a tech company and you're looking at places to host your service, are you going to host it in the country that goes ape shit when something happens, and they're going to require you to pull the plug on stuff and threaten you with 14 years for child pornography charges if you don't? I'm like, no, you really risk it. And when people ask for censorship in the US, I say the same thing, because the only reason we make so much money off of tech, and the only reason why Google and Facebook and all these other companies, even 4chan and 8chan headquarter in the US, despite everything, is that if it's legal anywhere in the world, it's also probably legal in the US. And if we start changing that, you're going to see such an exodus of tech capital from this country. They're going to go to Panama. They're going to go I mean, if it gets bad, they'll go to UK. I mean, why not? They'll go to Switzerland and Iceland. Why would they stay in the US and pay our corporate income tax when they can go to Cyprus and headquarter out of there and get better treatment? There would be nothing keeping them there. You really, especially if you're going to be banking on tech capital, do not ever censor people in your country.
Right. And just don't censor things in general. Like that's the rule you should start with, and then make very, very limited, if any.
Well, if you're a greedy bastard and you don't care at all about human rights, think of all the money you'll lose if you censor people.
There you go. That was nice. I'm sure they'll pull the gun off of you very soon. No, the funny thing is it takes one event, right? Like you said, everybody's great at all these things and freedom and liberty until that one nasty event, and then it's immediately, well, do you want your liberty or your security? I mean, we got to have the security. We got to get rid of this freedom. A little too much freedom here. And it's like,
alternative is thinking about hard questions about why people are shooting each other. They don't want to do that. So the problem then is the streaming of it.
Exactly. Okay, so I've got a letter for you.
I've been waiting for this.
I'm gonna screen share it specifically so that you can see it at the same time as everyone else. Hold on. I have censored addresses, but I have not censored any names. I censored names the other time, but I'm done with that. So that's I guess that's unfortunate. So this is from a Melinda Scott. I got this today. It probably came in the mail yesterday, but I got it today because I didn't get the mail yesterday. Dated March 12th, 2019. So this is fresh off the presses. Office of Lawyers Professional Responsibility. So if you don't know by now, Melinda Scott did go ahead and file an ethics complaint against me the other day, and it was turned down immediately by the Office of Lawyers Professional Responsibility. And the people who are considering doing it again should take note, I suppose, because there's more of them. So it's about me. It's about me. To whom it may concern, I'm in receipt of your letter, dated February 27th, 2019. I received the letter on March 12th, 2019, due to a delay in the postal mail system. I participate in Virginia's address confidentiality program for victims of stalking. My mail goes to the Attorney General's office and then to my residence. So apparently, I'm not familiar with this plan, but apparently there's like a whole office at the Attorney General's office in Virginia that has to go through and like verify the mail of stalking victims. My God, the amount of money.
No, they're probably like a virtual office. Like they get a letter addressed to them, and then they just forward it, without reading it. I don't think it's like a prison thing where they have to go through it.
I didn't think they'd go through the mail, but I think maybe they'd scan like the address and see if it's from a stalker. I mean, that's what I. Maybe. Oh, I see what you're saying. Maybe it just gets.
Yeah, it's just to protect the address of the person.
That's weird. Okay, so yeah, they must have like a PO box, and I did censor that. Next time we'll see. They did have that that PO box. So that PO box, that their mailing address must just be to them, and then they forward it along. I got it. Okay, that makes sense. Still seems like a complete crazy waste of money, but
It seems like some of the people could very reasonably do themselves without relying on tax money for it. Because I have a virtual office in Florida still. That's where my servicing address is. I don't live there.
Yeah, I just use a PO box. I mean,
well, you can't use a PO box for like a company's address and stuff. So I have to use a virtual office.
Oh yeah. That's true. Okay, so this letter is a formal appeal of your decision not to investigate my complaint against Mr. Ricada, Esquire. Oh, thank you for that. That was nice. Firstly, I would like to clarify some facts that were omitted in the complaint summary. It's a summary, Melinda. The complaint summary portion of the letter omits that I informed the Office of Lawyers' Professional Responsibility that Mr. Ricada, 1, slandered me in the video he created concerning me. 2, that he is encouraging and enabling criminal activity. I don't think that's true at all. I don't know of any criminal activity that I have ever encouraged or enabled. 3, that he is trying to use me as an example to discourage pro se litigants. Let me just go on record. Absolutely, yes, I am doing that. 100%. In fact, if I don't do that, I might be violating my ethical obligations as an attorney. Pro se litigation is a terrible idea. Terrible. I understand why some people have to do it. That makes sense, but it is a bad plan to do pro se litigation. Always hire an attorney if you have any ability to do so. So 3 is correct, although that's not a violation of my ethical obligation. 4, that he does not promote equal protection of the laws in the video, which is silly. I always do. That he does not promote justice in the video, and that he does not act professional in the video. These additional points that I asserted are important in assessing his conduct fully. In your letter, you stated that Rule 8A requires that, quote, allegations, if true, which would constitute serious misconduct reflecting adversely on the attorney's fitness to practice law, are to be investigated, quote, whether or not the actions were in the practice of law. I will also apprise you of exact statements made by Mr. Ricada, since it appears to me the content of the video was not assessed before the issuance of the decision letter. I mean, maybe she got that impression when they said decided not to investigate, which I'm offended by because they didn't give me views, right? This is great. The Minnesota Bar Oath states that an attorney must protect the Constitution of the United States. In my complaint, I stated that Mr. Ricada was mocking me as a pro se litigant and that he was trying to discourage pro se litigants. Like, Josh, does she realize that she's talking to attorneys? Like several, that's the board, right? It's a bunch of attorneys.
Yes. I mean, really, Melinda Scott told me, or at least wrote, presumably with a straight face while writing, that because she had at some point intended to become a law student, she knew what she was talking about.
That's
in the same way that I, as once when I was a child, I intended to become an astronaut. I am a qualified spacefarer, so I don't know. You can't come at me with your NASA pedigree and expect me to not know things. I know about stars and shit.
I go outside and look at those bad boys every day. I know tons of them. Okay. I stated that he does not promote equal protection of the laws within said video. Where have I? That's a weird one. I'm actually confused about that because I'm one of the most equal protection persons I've ever met. I think
she's probably specifically saying that because, okay, you have to consider that she's an idiot. So she's writing this with the knowledge, with the absolute unshakable belief that she is 100% accurate in all of her legal knowledge.
Right.
And that her claim is 100% true. And because of mere technicality and prejudice within the system, she has been denied 6 times her complaints. So
that's true.
Writing this, she's saying that because she is a Jewish feminist, your advocacy that what she is doing is wrong is a bigoted judgment and not one of fair treatment.
But I just want to let her know, Melinda, that's very silly. I think all the Jewish feminists should get the same treatment as everyone else under the law. The same treatment. not special treatment. You get the same. That's the equal part. The 14th Amendment of the Constitution states that no state shall, quote, deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. Yeah, they did that. It was actually for black people. Let's be very clear on what the 14th Amendment was created for. But we do all get to enjoy its protection now. But I don't think they were actually concerned about Jewish feminists when the 14th Amendment was passed. Although I'm a citizen of Virginia, your office holds jurisdiction over this complaint I have filed, and therefore jurisdiction over me. I mean, that not really. She's just submitting to the jurisdiction. The person making the complaint. To allow an attorney under your authority to mock a pro se litigant who is indigent and holds a federal right to file as an indigent pro se litigant is a violation of the 14th Amendment. That's not at all accurate. And also, I didn't say she couldn't file. I said she shouldn't. She should get a lawyer who would tell her the opposite. I think I even told her to contact legal aid. Anyway, both covert and overt forms of harassment aimed at someone exercising their federal rights is a way to deny equal protection. This is where it starts to get fun, because I think she starts quoting me soon. Within his video, Mr. Rekieta repeatedly makes demeaning comments about the nature and quality of my pleadings and attributes his assessment due to my pro se status. At one point, he states that my pleadings are an example of why you hire an attorney. Yes, that is true. In one part, he states that I wrote too much by attaching additional pages to the pro se litigant form. In another part, he states that I have written my pleadings so poorly that I was only getting 1 out of 8 correct. He laughs and says, "What are you doing?" to mock how I wrote my pleadings.
I love every time, like, because the judge has written about, she's written about me, and then the judge has written quoting her about things I've said about her. And she doesn't learn like how hilarious it is reading these things. They're like scripts to a comedy.
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, aside from the fact that I don't actually want people to flood the board with frivolous complaints about my ethical responsibilities, they are funny. But it is annoying. But at least I get to laugh at them. He states that what I write doesn't make any sense. He mockingly says that I repeated myself unnecessarily. His unprofessional and unethical bias against pro se litigants is a violation of the 14th Amendment, which he has sworn an oath to uphold. Sweet Cheeks, you should have put in a citation to back that up. I mean, I know you can't, but you should have. You should have. Further, the 14th Amendment states that no state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States. Yeah, no state shall make or enforce any law. Melinda, what are... Under the federal rules of civil procedure, every pleading shall be construed to secure substantial justice. FPRC Rule 9E. Mr. Rekieta's treatment of my federal pleadings in his video violates this aforementioned rule. No, it doesn't. I'm not your judge. I'm not your judge, girl. What are you talking about? I'm not the state. I would never be the state. The rule functions with the force of law. Talk to the rule makers.
Well, no, this is the thing. This is a reoccurring theme in every single thing she files. She will cite constitutional violations against me as if I am the government. And I'm like, you can't do this. You're not protected from me. You cannot be saved from me by the Constitution. I have the right of the Constitution as well.
Yeah.
It's very funny.
What she's not realizing is that she is asking right now, she is asking the state to impose unconstitutional restrictions on my speech. That's what she's violating the Constitution.
Yeah.
The rule functions with the force of law by mocking the efforts of a pro se litigant who is a victim of cyberstalking, libel, and slander in exchange for promoting and enabling criminal activity and anti-Semitic and misogynistic remarks is not substantial justice required by Rule 9E. He deliberately has worked to make me a target because of my status as 1, a woman, 2, as a Jew, and 3, as a pro se litigant. I don't think so. How did I don't even know what that means. I don't even know how to target Melinda Scott. I don't know if she has social media. I don't know anything about her. Subsequently, He violates the 14th Amendment, which he took an oath to uphold. He violates it by trying to interfere with it and abridge the privileges and immunities I have as a citizen of the United States to function as a pro se litigant. Mr. Rekieta stated in the video that he sincerely believed I was writing my pleadings pro se. I sincerely believe that you're writing your pleadings pro se. Yes. I'm not sure what she's getting at there. Within his video, Mr. Rekieta is openly operating as a legal professional, not as an ordinary civilian. In his video, Mr. Rekieta continues to reinforce the anti-Semitic and misogynistic label aimed at me on Kiwifarms.net. He is a friend of the website.
Hold up.
Yeah.
You know that old Fox News videos where they're talking about 4chan like in mid 2000s, and the narrators like the remarks are often anti-Semitic and racist. That's she literally reads like a mid 2000s Fox News skit about 4chan.
Yeah, she has to suck on that protected status teat as hard as possible. She thinks that'll be more effective, I guess.
Maybe if I was her employer, but as far as I know, she doesn't work for me. Unfortunately, I bet you I could get so many tax credits hiring her dumbass. That would be great. I would never get taxed again. They'd pay me to keep her busy.
I think the Americans with Disabilities Act would be covering you for life. He is a friend of the website owner and conducting the video in support of his friend Mr. Moon, who owns Kiwifarms.net. He openly acknowledges and greets Mr. Moon within his video. Yes, as a guest on my show, I do openly acknowledge and greet you, so that's good.
I wonder if she was hoping for like a hostile interview. Like, do you know what you're doing to this poor woman? She's a feminist Jew. You can't say this shit. You gotta take this website down.
She's got her wily
14th Amendment.
her wily vaginal Jew powers to come after you. I'm just hoping that she sends wily vaginal Jew powers in the next complaint, I guess. He encourages Mr. Moon in his video by saying, "Yes, seek the notoriety, Josh." Yeah, the massive notoriety of Melinda Scott trolling. That's
Can we take a second to acknowledge that she, for whatever reason, has opted to have two closing quotation marks around that "yes, seek the notoriety, Josh."
Oh yeah, somehow
she didn't do it on the other ones. It's not like the thing from her word processor. She copied the ending quotes and pasted it at the front of that statement when she realized she didn't open quote it. And it's bugging the shit out of me. I just want to put that out there.
That's a weird one. An attorney who promotes an anti-Semitic and sexist agenda is not acting ethical or professional. Well, Pumpkin, honey face. You can say I'm doing that, but that's a legal conclusion. It's not even a legal conclusion. It's a conclusory statement. You haven't shown me to be anti-Semitic or sexist. I don't even know what an anti-Semitic sexist agenda is, but okay. In the video, Mr. Rekieta laughs with enthusiasm to twist my words into slander. I've twisted her words into slander, apparently.
You gotta here's a cheeky meme. Okay. When you hear this woman say the word slander, you must pronounce it as slander. Because her husband made pointed videos, like a dozen of them, saying that I'm going down, I'm gonna get taken down. They're working together. They're gonna make so much money suing me. Just saying all this shit. And he says, I know you, Joshua Moon. You've been slandering my life. And whenever I people love that because they hear him say slander, because it's like it's one thing to mix up like libel and slander. It's another thing to mix up libel and slander because that's not a thing. So you have to look out for that.
I have to ask you, which husband? I've heard she's had over 4,000 husbands.
Literally over 9,000 husbands at this point.
Oh my gosh. He repeats. Notice what she doesn't say. She doesn't say they're false. No, you didn't say they were false. That's the problem. That's why it's not. You have to allege a false statement, Melinda. I'm giving you a course on how to do this, and you don't even realize it. To twist my words into false meanings and to insinuate derogatory messages about me. No, it's to show the deficiency in your pro se litigant stated pleadings and statements. Is that if you don't allege that or if you don't assert their falsehood under oath, then they can't be slanderous. They have to be false to be slanderous. He states, "Lady, is it true?" in a disrespectful, suggestive tone, even though my statements in the pleading clearly appeared under the titles defamation, false light, and negative light. Melinda, heart to heart. Okay, no joking, nothing aside. Consider this mentorship and not legal advice. When you're writing a pleading, look up Iqbal versus Ashcroft and Twombly versus Bell South or whatever, and you could Google the Iqbal Twombly standard for pleadings, and you have to assert facts which lead to legal conclusions. You can't just state defamatory statements. So you have to assert the fact that the statement is false. That's why your pleadings are deficient, because you're not even telling the court that they're false. You're just leaving it in a subheader. A subheader is not a statement of fact in the pleading that the court can use.
The main reason why that they're failing is as Judge I think it's James P. Jones P. Jones. I don't know. What he has pointed out many, many times is that she has failed to state a claim. She has not once ever, even in the lawsuit that she won, ever said that this person has violated this law and I am to be awarded this as a consequence. She has never once laid the foundation for her case. And the one that she did win was a criminal thing against her stalker. And I don't know if she did that pro se or if she had help. I'm assuming she had help.
She could have.
It's criminal.
Right. Yeah, if it's criminal, it's the state did it, right? She didn't do anything other than tell them things. If she would have just Googled failure to state a claim, she would probably get linked to any number of articles talking about Iqbal versus Ashcroft.
He explains how to do it. He has explained to her in very patient ways, multiple times, how to write the argument in such a way that it passes the first level of scrutiny, which is, what are you suing for?
Right. You've got to tell the court why all this matters, why it's unlawful, and you can't just say it is unlawful. You have to let them come to that conclusion. Okay, so they here under the titles. He mocks why I would put allegedly in parentheses to insinuate that I committed adultery. Yes, why wouldn't you just say allegedly? It doesn't have to be in parentheses. He openly states that I've had too many husbands. Even suggesting at one point that I may have been married up to even 12, 30, or 40 times. 10 more times. At least 50 now. Maybe 60 if you talk again. There's nothing ethical or professional about his conduct, which he does in an official capacity. Now, this is great for me because finally I have the ammunition to go out and tell everybody that I'm an official YouTube lawyer.
Yeah, you're an official YouTube lawyer right now. I was going to say that.
Yeah, over and over. It's, oh, you're just a YouTube lawyer. I shouldn't listen to you. And then now I know that as a YouTube lawyer, I'm finally within my official capacity. Government
in the court of feminist Jewish law, you are an official YouTube lawyer.
Oh, thank God. Shalom or whatever. My Jewish terminology is not good.
Well, you're gonna have to brush up on that if you want to go far.
Yeah. Such behavior is unbecoming of educated people who are operating in a professional capacity. Oh boy. In addition, Mr. Rekieta acts as an enabler of criminal activity, a feeder, if you will, by hosting and encouraging dozens of derogatory and malicious, slanderous comments aimed at me under his video. The ones from the judge.
Yes, those slanderous statements.
Slanderous. Oh yes, I'm sorry. It was supposed to be slanderous statements. He is encouraging abuse by proxy. There is nothing just, professional, or ethical about that. All of the behaviors of Mr. Rekieta I mentioned above are relevant when considering characteristics relevant to the practice of law. Nope. For one, he has taken an oath to uphold the Constitution. 2, he has a legal duty as a legal professional, or he has a duty as a legal professional not to use his professional station as a platform for 1, encouraging criminal activity, or 2, promoting racist, discriminatory, and sexist statements and treatment for others. Citation needed, sweetie. In his video, he tells me that I should, quote, submit to the patriarchy. In another place, he states that I have wicked Jewish powers. Oh my God. I can't. I'm so happy I said that. Now, this is my favorite part, of course. A JD, a Juris Doctor, is not issued as a title for absolute immunity in order to promote sexist and racist agendas. It is a degree issued to be upheld with professionalism, ethics, honor, and dignity when acting in an official capacity. No, a JD is a piece of paper you get that says you completed the credit requirement decided by the ABA to go ahead and pass law school. That's it. That doesn't make you a lawyer or anything. It's just a degree. It's just a degree and has nothing to do with any of this. Sincerely, Melinda Scott, CC. She went ahead and sent it to me out of courtesy. Thank you so much, Nicholas Robert Rekieta. So they're
making sure that you don't have to wait, so you can read it.
I know.
It was right now.
It was very nice of her, and I have to thank you. I have to thank you for ruining my professional reputation over and over again.
Well, I mean, I'm helping you wallpaper your room. You know, I can't physically come over to your home and paint your house with you and share a beer with you, but I can get enough people to send you documents to physically cover the inside of your house, and that's the best I can do.
Yeah, and it's so far it's going very well, and I only expect it to continue. There's a good chat here. It says, Craig Dawes says, if you ever get merch, can it say I have wicked Jewish powers? Well, 1, probably not. But 2, I do have merch, and it's listed in the description. There's a link right to it. And it's probably cycling below your video because I have the partnership thing from Teespring or whatever. So you can check it out. And there's more merch coming. There's some good stuff coming.
Oh, one thing.
Yeah.
If you want to pull up the document again, I want to point something out.
Yeah, hold on 1 second. Let me where was it?
You see the signature? It looks like chicken scratch, but it's so bad. It makes me wonder if she tried to write it in Hebrew. And you know what I mean? It's so bad. It looks like a foreign script almost, because it doesn't look like cursive. I mean, why does her name, which is consistent supposedly of 2 words, maybe 2 words and a letter in between them, have 8 different fragments? That's not how that's supposed to work.
Yeah, I don't know. I only assume that she at one point intended to be a doctor and is invoking her legal right to write prescriptions or something.
Right. Yeah, if you signed a prescription with that signature, every pharmacist would take it at face value as being a legitimate script. There's no way that a normal person would sign their name this sloppily and shittily.
They'd believe it immediately. They'd be like, "Oh yeah, give this guy all of the opiates that we have." Actually, I think they probably have standing orders to do that, but that's a different discussion. Oh my God, what a disaster! What a disaster our world is in. When upstanding citizens are denied their right to be pro se litigants by internet lawyers who have literally zero influence over their lives. Oh my gosh. Whew. Sometimes I forget the power that I wield, Josh. Do you ever do that? Do you forget the power that you wield? To
Apparently, I thought I was a shit posting website a couple days ago. Now I'm
no,
apparently enemy number one of New Zealand. I
you
don't know how
were
that happened.
you were the voice. You were the voice of memeing mass murderers everywhere.
When mother's proud, I'm sure.
um, I need to read a whole bunch of chats. So let's burn through those, and if there's anything left, or do you have a little bit? I hate to keep you. I don't want to ever make other people think that they have to stay. I know you've been very busy, so you are welcome to stay. But if you need to go at any point, please let me know, and I'll graciously allow you to exit.
Sure. I'll just sit back in case one of them is to me. I think a couple of them were.
Oh,
So.
I'm sure some of them are. Okay, Lord Rap of Rap Mountain says the next mass shooter is going to stream using a 360 3D camera so people can watch it in VR. Oh God, don't give them ideas. That's horrible. Blaine 20 says F and salute for massive flooding in the Omaha area. Stay safe, everybody who's in Nebraska. Also reconsider your life choices. As I say from Minnesota, don't get me wrong. According to James, says, why hasn't there been any mention of the other 3 arrests? Multiple sources reported 4 arrests in total. How are the others involved if they were? I have no idea.
I think they were rounded up. From what I've heard, people are saying like there is some really nutty shit about this being some kind of conspiracy. And there are people saying like if you read the Zero Hedge article that I retweeted about regarding my response to the police, they're like, they want this video suppressed because it's obviously fake. The first rounds are rubber bullets. Then he goes back into his trucks and get the live ammunition. And all the people laying down are mannequins. And he fires into them, and you can see that there is no blood in the bodies. And it's like, I don't know about that, buddy. I'm pretty sure I could see them moving and screaming and having their heads blown open. But maybe that's just me.
Yeah. The other thing is, I think. I was talking to someone about this yesterday that I haven't watched this video, so I'm talking about other things I've seen, specifically like the Daniel Shaver video. That was the guy who got plugged by police down in Arizona in the hotel hallway. The crazy difference between Hollywood and reality is that when people get shot in reality, the blood goes down. The blood doesn't go like all over the place. It's not like arterial spray, painting walls. It's people tend to drop because a bullet, especially from a high velocity bullet from like an AR-15, is a pretty small round and it punches straight through. And the exit wound isn't even that huge, but people crumple. Their bodies go into shock or they're dead and they crumple. And unless you hit very specific spots, most of the blood comes out of those wounds as they bleed out. It's not like you don't get a pint of blood from a bullet that's this big going through you. A pint of blood doesn't spray out the back with the exit wound. There's a small hole, there's some blood splatter, but most of it pours out or pools into your body and has to come out later. So it looks very, very different. So yeah, I can see where people get confused, but that's not how we work. Like
that's
our
an
bodies.
indictment on Hollywood more than anything.
Yeah, any Hollywood has people getting knocked over by bullets, and like simple physics would tell you that that's not how they work. If they did that, they wouldn't pierce your skin. We're talking they punch through very fast in very small places.
And sometimes they go through entirely. They just shred and rip out and go into the wall adjacent. So
right, and yeah. Anyway, well, that's enough talking about that. It's a weird misconception, and people tend to use it to forward conspiracy theories. But it's like when you watch people get. That's actually, to me, that's the most disturbing part of watching people die is how inglorious it is.
Yes, they just drop.
They become an object. They become an object, and the life is taken out of
They literally ragdoll. It's creepy.
Yeah, it doesn't look right. Doesn't look right at all. That was the thing with 9/11 too. Like when the plane hit the tower, it didn't look correct. It was like that because your brain doesn't. Well, for me, I'd never thought about what a plane hitting a building would look like. So you watch it just kind of like get sucked into the building. It's like, well, that's weird.
Yeah, and like even like the shots of it, they're tracking the plane, right? And then they overshoot it because once the plane they expect it to come out the other end. almost. And then they have to readjust the camera because they're like, oh wait, that didn't happen. So the mind expected something of the cameraman, the civilian cameraman expected something different than what happened.
I think you expect like the plane to chop through the building and carry through, or you like literally. I think people expected the building to sway and like tump over, but they're such massive structures, and we forget that, I think. But anyway, that's some exposition. Seth says, in the midst of getting a new job, family loss, and difficult classes, your streams have given me solid lulls and something to look forward to during late nights and stress. Keep being you, good sir. Thank you. I will do that. John Smith says, the eyes of the Jew powers are upon you. Tragic the garnering. Rip my country. Sorry, buddy. That's a New Zealander right there. And it really is a shame, but you know, hopefully you have staunch advocates that do stand up and say difficult things. Honestly, that's the people that you need to learn to appreciate, is the people who will stand up and say, yeah, I get that this is a bad thing that happened, but that doesn't mean we need to give up everything we believed in yesterday. Colonel J says, "Hey, woo." Blaine says, if they can't lie if we are eyewitnesses, they like to lie about the body counts on just about every shooting. That may be true. Moist John says, Serbs are Turks. Croatia remove Brenton. Okay. Anthony says, what is it about being a paralegal that makes them so autistic? That Leaf on Twitter is really mad at you for being mean to Soye. Also, Weefek is gay. Yeah, I don't know what. So, Josh, you know, the Vic Mignogna thing or whatever, I'm attracting the ire not of other lawyers, but only of paralegals. Like, I've got a team of paralegals that are questioning my legal knowledge constantly over on Pretty Ugly Little Liars, over on Twitter. They're sending the best and brightest paralegals they can find. All the paralegals I've ever met are actually reasonable and well-grounded people, but the ones on the internet seem
internet ones. Yeah, it's probably Dunning-Kruger. It's like, you know, they're around it and they think they know a lot more than they do, because they hear so much of it, but they actually haven't taken the steps to get a degree in it. So
yeah,
they like to pretend they know more than they do.
And of course, my favorite paralegal is Russell Greer.
Of course, the master.
He's like their what's the who's the guy who the whistle and the snakes, the whistle and the snakes off the Peter the.
He's the face. He's the face of the industry.
Oh God, that poor industry. The Texan 83 says, not to make light of the attack, but the funniest part of it all is Facebook friends in the States another New Zealander, trying to tell me what it's like to be in a country I've lived in since 2004. Yeah, that's just the magic of Facebook right there. Polly says, remember lads, subscribe to PewDiePie. Rolana1 says, doesn't Facebook delete profiles of deceased people? I don't think they do that as a policy. I think you have to request it because they wouldn't know otherwise. But I don't know that they do that. Hoosier Highway says, Null, is the captain still in contact with Chris?
Oh, sorry. I have no idea. I haven't been keeping tabs on Chris for months.
Okay. Yeah, well, I have no idea. I'm not Null, though. They asked you. Maxwell Silver says, Ayo, Nick, when you getting Gavin on? What, like Gavin McGinnis? I don't know. I guess he could come on the show. See how that goes. Polly says, Josh, I will pay you one whole yang if you do a feeder stream. What's a yang? Is that $1,000? I think.
Yes, I've been tweeting about it, that we need to start calling it $1,000 instead of like a stack or a grand. We're just gonna call it a yang.
Yeah, you got to get a yang. I like it.
5 yangs. Yeah, it works.
This person will give you a yang to do a feeder stream.
I fucking do it. Easy yang. Easiest yang in my life.
Get that down in a contract. Maxwell Silver says, yo, Nick, want to go to an Amy Klobuchar with me? Oh, God, like a rally? That sounds horrible. According to James, maybe, call me, buddy. According to James, I disavow Spyro 3 for inspiring ethno-nationalism. Mundane Matt says, love the show, Nick. Keep doing what you're doing. Please promise me to never go on an Indiegogo trip with Andy Worski and eat burgers out of the trash. #Gunt. I don't think that's in the plans. It would be very hard for me to do that. I have too many kids to take care of at home. Shane Quigley says 2 to 3 days awake. Null, the owner of Kiwifarms equals Crystal Gunt addict. Disavow. Tragic the Garnering says, screw you, Null. How dare you call my country poop? That's a New Zealander. Rude.
Oh, I love New Zealand. Not as much as I love Israel, but it's up there.
Crocodactyl says, just want to say that Josh's reply to the New Zealand LEO email was the funniest thing I've read all year. Sordid Sentinel says, that face when a cyberbully site of exceptional individuals becomes a bastion of free speech and anti-censorship. Mad respect, Josh, and thanks for the retweet earlier. P.S. Is Nick licensed to practice F. Got law? Yes, I am. Ear Juice says, if a Kiwi calls you a dag, that's like the C word. Okay. Twitch E Johnson says, based in Kiwi Pill Josh, it's all Erver, baby. Toya, this monster was an accelerationist who wanted to radicalize people in order to sow discord and advance the collapse of society. Frustrating to see that everyone is playing into his hands in order to satisfy their justice. Yeah, that's true. That's something we talked about briefly, Josh, right? That this guy's plan is being executed perfectly by all the people who hate him.
Yes, we didn't talk too much about. We had brief words right before the stream about intent, and I don't want to get into it too much, but I think that what he intended to do is being done. I think he wanted to make the world a less free place than before he was incarcerated, and drive people to a level of outrage to force them to act. And I think that once the disenfranchised young white men of the world are bored because the internet is so sterilized and boring and awful to them, they'll finally have motivation to get up and cause problems for society.
Yeah, and that sounds a lot like George Bush after 9/11. So good job plagiarizing that.
I was like 9 when that happened. Don't even.
You're that young? Oh man.
I thought you were 92.
92? Oh my god. Oh, remind me to send you to the store to get my Depends. Polly says, gas, step on the gas. Eric Reeder, another New Zealander, says the Christchurch shooting should be a video game. Wow. I don't know. Well, I mean, I guess if people want to buy it, that's how video games are made. Ash Rin says, magical Jew powers weren't enough to save my family from being raped by orcs. I am sorry about that. Darkman McEdgeface says, Kurt Eichenwald could send Snowden some hentai. Yeah, I think Eichenwald might have some specific experience with that. Sakaki Onsai says, sweet cheeks equals a étoile de soleil, aka e-toilet. TLJ Screwjob says, so Nick, hypothetically speaking, what if Beard Harris Bullock Hughes discovers that 100% beyond a shadow of a doubt Vic is guilty of the hair pulling and sexual assault? What happens then? Does it go to criminal court or something, or just hashtag FVic? Beard Harris Bullock Hughes wouldn't discover 100% beyond a shadow of a doubt that Vic is guilty of the hair pulling. That's something that the other party would, I guess, have to prove, wouldn't it? That's how that would work.
You're asking, like, if they added evidence to the case at a certain point that made it look overwhelmingly conclusive that he was guilty. I mean, not them making the discovery, but in the process of discovery, they add something to the case.
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
That's tough. I imagine they would they would have to take a new look at things and decide what's the best course for the client at that point.
Yeah, and here's the ultimate thing, though. Here's the most difficult thing for people to understand. Hypothetically, even if he did all of it, can they prove it? Now, not like that. So that's the question. If they discover 100% proof, it's not up to them. It's up to the other parties to prove their statements true. What can you prove is in court much more important than what happened. And that's a problem that I don't think they realize that they face, is that they have they have huge credibility issues. 2, they way overthink the amount of people that'll be allowed to testify in this stuff. And 3, it's really hard to prove things happened 10 years ago. It's really, really hard because juries are like, I don't know. Did that actually happen? Especially when you've got some of the issues that this case has. George, oh wait, no. Queen Nidus says Best Gore still has the video. UWU. George Glass says Nick, Josh is poor, but partially because he's bad at business. Doesn't even read super chats. Please have him shill methods to donate to you. So you're on New Project 2, right?
Yes, I am. I am very, very appreciative of Dick Masterson's work. If you go to matattheinternet.com, I have a very special instance of the new Project 2 system, which has worked fantastically, and I really like it. And it's basically just Patreon, except it has fewer fees, and I feel that it'll stay up for a while because I don't know. Dick just gets stuff done. I don't because he understands how pathetic threatening emails are, and he can just ignore them and doesn't care. And so few people get that. You can literally ignore people and not care about what they say. Do you know that, Nick?
I do. I'm very good at it. It's funny. Like, yeah, the overwhelming majority of these internet threats, or whatever, which actually probably qualify as extortion in some way, but hard to prosecute.
Or torturous interference or something, but 99.9% of them are utterly toothless.
Right.
And the worst thing you can do is reply. Don't even reply to tell them to fuck off, unless you want to make a really badass looking post that gets spread around on media.
Right.
Then do it. But yeah, otherwise, if it's just a crazy person nobody cares about, ignore it. Don't even respond.
What are they going to do? What are they going to do? They're going to send an ineffective email somewhere else. If we all would just get on this boat of ignoring these emails, none of this would have power. Vic Mignogna would still be employed, for example.
It's a group effort. We have to, as a society, stop giving a shit about a lot of things. It's like my first talk with Dick Masterson. I said that we're going to come to a point in the future, the near future, where we have nudes of almost everybody in Congress. Now we have that Ocasio Cortez's nudes already. So my prediction came true immediately, as they usually do. But we're going to have to get comfortable with it. We're going to have to get comfortable with the fact that nobody has privacy, and we just have to learn to stop giving a shit and focus on things that are actually material, because otherwise we're going to go insane.
And we also have to stop. And I think it's up to the Zoomers, or whatever the stupid name they have for whoever. It's up to the next generation to inoculate themselves from the shame of their past, right? Like, because that's the other thing. We're all afraid of. We're all afraid of what they're going to come up with, right? Like it's this big thing, and it's only because people give it credibility. It's like, okay, so you did nudes 10 years ago. Like, in the long run, who cares? Why do people care about this stuff? You said an offensive thing 10 years ago. So what? Like, what are they saying now? Who cares? People make these big deals. They don't actually care about it. They're not actually offended. It doesn't actually affect anything, but they know it's an effective tool to utilize it. It's got to stop being an effective tool. It just doesn't. None of this stuff matters. But yeah, that's my opinion. Mullah Mimula says, Mr. James O'Shaughnessy once on, check AOL. I'll get right on that. Trencher1375 says, get Medicare on. Solo Beverly says, Nick, thank you for doing these streams. My grandfather died recently and my 4-year girlfriend left me for another guy. So your streams have been such a light to me. Hope you had a good St. Patty's Day. I had a very good St. Patty's Day. Thank you. And I'm sorry to hear about your issues, man. Or ma'am. Because your name's Solo Beverly, but you said girlfriend. So whichever one it is, man or ma'am, peace to you, and hopefully you find the solace that you need. Ichicinco Negroni says Notorious RBG is on Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Look it up. I figured out what it is, but I just haven't looked at it yet. Solo Beverly says, also, did you read that letter that you tweeted about? That's this one we just read. Y says, I think the term you're looking for is Zenkai boost, not anti-fragile. That's to you, Josh.
It's based on a book that talked about anti-fragility. I'm sure there's different words and concepts for it, but it's definitely very interesting, this idea that everything that hits you makes you stronger.
Sure. Plantation Sensation says, check MySpace. Jim wants on. Thomas S says, would you consider having on Mike Boudet from Sword and Scale. Yes, I need to reach out to them this week. Recently got censored for saying non-PC jokes, and his show is getting shut down due to a smear campaign. Yes, many people have asked me to talk to them, and I haven't reached out yet because I've been very busy. But I'll do that. Russell T. Shackelford says, tune into the Hard Bastard / Hard News Network on YouTube for awesome news analysis and commentary Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern. Yorgamundo7 says, Anti-Fragile is from Nassim Taleb's risk-based philosophy. Highly recommend his book of the same name. It's thinking about complexity in a modern world. SJ Jar Jar Binks says, great work, by the way. What's to stop government treating you like Julian Assange and WikiLeaks? Look at his life now, regardless of public stink.
The answer is nothing. And if they want me dead, I'll be dead. There's nothing anybody can do about it.
Right. And the answer right now is that New Zealand is not the U.S. government, right? Like New Zealand doesn't have the pull that the U.S. government does to make your life as miserable as Julian Assange's life.
Yeah, and I mean there is the Five Eyes stuff. They probably will spy on me if requested and stuff. But it's just like I don't worry about it too much because I don't break the law. I don't break the law. I really don't. And if they're gonna, I don't know. It's just if they're gonna do what they're gonna do, and I can't worry about it or I go insane.
Yeah. Seth Rich worried about it. Look what happened to him. Matt Ranostay says, keep defending free speech, Kiwifarms. That was just a joke because he's dead. SJ Jar Jar Binks says, get a hold of decommissioned military Russian hardware. Schwanz Gruberman says, hey, Nick, check Twitter DMs for real. Yes, that was about the kid who's facing 14 years. Guns Down in Hale says, we gave the ISPs $400 billion to get fiber in all homes and schools, and they spent it to buy their competition. Thanks, Clinton, you butt. Blaine 20 says, Orient literally means east. It can be said to mean the light's place or something like that, referring to the sunrise. Tom531 Cat says, the sad joke is the government and some industries cause more paranoia in society than the event itself. It's just a shame they act so backwards. True. I think that's very true. Now, okay, Josh, so when 9/11 occurred, I know you're 9 or whatever at the time, but how that doesn't matter because you can look back on it now. One of George Bush, his statement was, we have to not let this shake our society, like go out and shop, go out and do the things that you did yesterday, right? Like he got a lot of crap for that. But what do you think about that message coming from the government?
I mean, it's like well, I think Bush's reaction after 9/11 was he had like the highest approval rating in history after immediately following 9/11, and then he had one of the lowest a couple years later.
Well, that's because he dragged on these wars for the next 8 years.
This is off topic, but it reminds me. I remember either voting for Obama or supporting him during his first election. I think I was 17 when he first got elected.
Well, now I know who to hate.
I supported him, and I supported him primarily because he said, and he did on day one, made actions to close Guantanamo Bay. It is now like 12 years later, and that shit's still open.
Yeah.
I can't even believe it. I can't even that defies my belief.
Here's the Guantanamo problem. What do you do with those guys?
I don't know. Do anything. Just kill them and cede the land back to Cuba. I don't care. Just close the goddamn thing down.
In all honesty, that's unironically, that's the solution that is the only one that makes any sense because for many Guantanamo detainees, you can't send them back to their countries. Even they don't want them. They won't take them back. And the U.S.
we can't try them here. It's just like, we're already breaking international law, holding them indefinitely without trial. So we're not. I mean, is killing them any worse in the eyes of public perception? Would anybody even notice? Just keep the camp empty for like another 10 years, and then say we sorted it.
You know what's weird? They can actually get a habeas hearing in the U.S. They won that right under Hamdan. versus Rumsfeld back in
That's a
2005 or
mouthful.
6. Yeah, well, it's worse because there's another case called Hamdi versus Rumsfeld, which is in the same vein. I'm pretty sure it was Hamdan, where they found out that basically foreign detainees held in Guantanamo Bay specifically had the right to the civilian justice system, not the tribunals, the military tribunals of the UCMJ. You know how many have taken that right? I
All
think
of them.
0.
What?
Yeah, well,
Why?
they're all still there, right? Because at least maybe now they could get around it, but imagine a civilian trial with an American jury for people who attacked American soldiers and American ideas. Like in a way, they probably wanted the military justice system because they deal with foreign combatants pretty often, but the civilian courts don't. And now imagine you get transferred out of Guantanamo Bay, where you get
Staten Island prison.
right. Think about it, because in Guantanamo, you're guaranteed a Quran, prayer time. You're guaranteed your meals. They have a soccer field and a stadium. They get field time with all of with the people that are in there. The Guantanamo Bay is the most tailored U.S. Facility to hold people of severely traditional or highly traditional Muslim beliefs. I mean, that's what it's literally made for. Now, you take them out and you put them in general population in what were you saying about male sodomy being the threat?
Geez.
Right? Like literally, where do you put them? What prison? One, what state wants to take them, and two, what prison do you want to go to?
One in Dearborn, they're going to send that kid to.
they do not. They have the ability. They won it. It was a huge thing. 5-4 or 6-3 decision, heavy on the liberal justices. You know, obviously they actually get more protection than a U.S. citizen who's detained overseas working with Al Qaeda. That was Hamdi versus Rumsfeld. That guy has to sit in a military brig, not in Guantanamo, but in a military brig in Virginia, and get a military tribunal under the UCMJ.
What's the name of that forced labor camp we send military prisoners to?
I don't remember.
It's a really famous military prison in Virginia.
Yeah, I believe you. I just don't know the name. But yeah, so Anthony Kennedy wrote both opinions, I believe. And his opinion in Hamdan was crazy, because it's like non-U.S. citizens got more constitutional protection to similarly situated U.S. citizens, and but they don't take it, and that's because they will go to prison in the United States for terrorism charges. They may face the death penalty, and worst case they'll go into Gen Pop at a prison with a bunch of people who might not like them very much, and might really not care about their strong traditional Muslim beliefs. So it's an interesting conundrum. So yeah, what do you do with them? Anyway, that's a weird rant on Guantanamo, but I don't know if it's actually 0, but the number of people who have taken that habeas corpus hearing is through the floor. And I think you're right. I think it is New York that they have to face the civilian trial, which the people.
It's funny. It's almost like a dark comedy. This idea of
Leavenworth.
Yes, that's it.
But
it's like a dark comedy. This idea of sending a bunch of like a Muslim fundamentalists to like a New York black prison, and trying to make them like mesh. Like I can imagine that being something that is like a film or a book, because it's such a preposterous concept.
Yeah, who knows how it would even play out? That's the weird thing. Like, because there are comedic ways it could play out. There's terrifying ways it could play out, and they're really 50-50 for me. Okay, next. Blaine20 says, Nick Monroe said 2 days ago that US LEOs want the video for training but can't find it because of New Zealand, so they're asking Kiwifarms for it. Lol. Yep, that's what you mentioned earlier. An unnamed source from New Zealand says they're trying to put heat on the gun shop / owners. Smack my head. Also, a possible name change of a rugby team for piss weak reasons too. Yeah, of course. After 9/11, they removed the song Bodies by Drowning Pool from the radio for a while because
they removed many songs. There's a Wikipedia article listing all the songs that they removed.
And they removed That's My Bush, the Trey Parker and Matt Stone show on Comedy Central making fun of the Bush White House, which was really a funny show. That pisses me off. Blaine20 says thumbs up for Oxford, comma. Blaine20 follows up with counterpoint. Hay reads them immediately and causes ADHD in the guest panel. I can go either way personally. I used to do that too, but it's too chaotic. The legendary Devil Hunter Dante says Renfamous is the one who graced me with a Twitter suspension. She's a real peach like that. And it's really nice that Twitter never suspends her, even though she literally harasses people constantly. Julio Santoyo says Honey Boo Boo's mom was arrested for possession of crack. Well, that makes sense. Blaine20 says you should have gotten international immunity in writing. Niceville. So he's talking to you in regards to turning over the video to law enforcement, get international immunity. Hessian says, what does Josh think about the list on privacytools.io?
I've never heard of that. I mean, look at it real quick. Let's see. It looks well sourced. It looks like one of those. Yeah, holy crap! They have a lot of information on this. It might be too verbose for most people, but it looks well organized.
Well, there you go. You'll have to look into it and tell me.
Yeah, maybe I can just link people this instead of writing a different message every time something like this happens.
Yeah, that makes sense. This is from New Zealand also. Eric Rader says CHCH mosque shooting should be in Call of Duty. I don't think the Call of Duty development team is going to do that.
Can I mention how weird it is to see the abbreviation CHCH? I've seen that multiple times now. People abbreviating Christchurch as CHCH. It's just such like a weird, quirky name for like a shooting because they just refer to it as the CHCH shooting.
Yeah, it makes sense from a written standpoint, but phonetically it doesn't. Like the mosque. The Orange Cow says Nick, she is the dumbest person, possibly Irver. That was Melinda Scott, I believe. Well, I shouldn't say that. I guess that might be slander. Knight of Hopek says, I'm not your judge, girl. That's true, I'm not. The Orange Cow says, remember the 6 gazillion husbands. Oh, I thought that was a gorillion joke. The 6 gazillion husbands. Memphis Grosteles says, thanks, Josh and Nick, for telling douchebags to stuff it. Josh, your reply to the NZ police had me rolling on the floor. Nick tries Zacapa rum. It's the greatest drink on earth. Careful of hangovers. I don't usually get hangovers, so I'll try it sometime. Blaine20 says, failure to state a claim for which relief may be granted. Correct. Tom531Cat says, could the claim be they hurt my feelings with their reality? Reality is hard for me. You guys have an interesting snowflake on your hands. Kiash the Pally says, as a Jew myself, I give you full Jew powers. Yes! We got him. Finally got him. Thank goodness. Jay Moore says, uphold patriarchy while defeating evil Jew powers. No way, I just got the Jew powers. Moist John says, her Jew powers can create human ashes without someone dying. Whoa. Mitch says, Miss Scott and her 109 husbands took a cruise on the USS Liberty to the King David Hotel and had a beautiful Levin affair. I don't know what that means. Did you get that deep reference? You're not listening.
The what affair? No, sorry.
That's okay. I'll read it again just because I don't know what they're talking about. Mrs. Scott and her 109 husbands took a cruise on the USS Liberty to the King David Hotel and had a beautiful Levin affair.
I don't know what the King David Hotel is. I'm sure I think it's a reference to the Old Testament, but the USS Liberty was a U.S. ship in the Mediterranean that Israel attacked and sank, and nothing ever came of that. I think the Israeli government paid a couple $1 million as like apologies to the families, but they sank that ship.
Right, I remember that story now. Now I that came out like way later, right? It was kind of hush hush.
Yeah, it was not good optics for the Israeli government.
Right, good job, guys. Darkman McEdgeface says, "Hey, Lawmite, is she building a case against herself? She's making some hefty non-claims and alleging you're an enabler of crimes, slander and defamation. No, it's stupidity. That's where she's really dabbling right now." Stupidity. Nixhex says, how do you know How do you know what a JD is? You're only a YouTube lawyer. Well, I've seen them on TV. Plum Logan says, even if you can't get him for the Mueller report, I still highly recommend getting Hard Bastard on the show. Yeah, I will try. At some point, I hear good things. Jason Groot says, question for Josh: is it true the shooter had a fish and a number 14 symbols on the gun like Podesta's hands?
I've not heard that specifically, but people took many stills of the actual firearm. He had written stuff all over all of them. It seemed like it was very strange. It was a very distinct aesthetic that I'm sure will be referenced for a long time to come because it was such a very sticky kind of thing.
Well, there you go. Yeah, I haven't looked at it yet. Ashley McGuire says, when you sneeze, do you use a bed sheet to wipe? No, I don't. I use a circus tent. Asia Frazier says, to steal ideas from one person is plagiarism. To steal ideas from many is research. That's a good point. Broken Console Studio says, Twilight Zone Season 3, Episode 29, 4 o'clock. Plantation Sensation says, how much do you know about bird law? More than Jamal Eigel. Just barely, though. TLJ Screwjob says, like others are saying, even if Vic's evil, F Funimation. Vic is not evil, though. Like, I'm very convinced that he is very much a victim in this, and that he's being railroaded. And I think he's being railroaded by people who just don't like him, and that's the worst part. Like, they just don't like him, so they have decided to not make up lies, but to run with the lies of others, simply to fit their petty agendas. And that's and mind you, he doesn't even work with these people the majority of the time. They don't see each other in recording studios most of the time. They come in independently or they record from their homes and submit it. It's crazy. Asia Frazier says, explain the joke of re, then give us re for GP. Re is just the shrieking that social justice people do every time anything happens at all. Then give us re for GP. I don't know what GP is. Blaine20 says, prior to Monica's hair pulling revelation, all of her tweets prove that she only believed the creepiness claims made by and about fans, and the one claim made in the Funimation investigation by Samantha. Moist John says, we're going to end up in an opposite era where you could have been Natsock crap posting as a college student, and it will be normal in a few decades. Okay. Harris says, Nick and Josh are both my favorite streamers right now. Josh's laugh warms my heart, and Nick's lawyer banter wrinkles my otherwise smooth brain. Tism says, where can I find SPCC now that Stream Me is gone? I have no idea. Tillip says,
I'm sure. I don't know. I think he has a YouTube channel. If you have the YouTube channel link for SPCC, post it in chat, because he did go dark after Stream.me went dark as well.
Yeah. So yeah, you can post that in chat. I don't have links disabled, although some people do have problems posting them, but I don't know what to do. They're not disabled. Tillip says, got a feeder over her. Andy Marcelli says, first time contributor. Thank you. Only day off all month. Wanted to finally watch one of these live, but had to miss it. Needed to be ready for Endgame by going to see Captain Social Justice or Marvel instead. Rando number 9 says, Nick, was Renfamous ever a male? Shimjur as a strong jawline. I don't know anything about Renfamous. Was that ever a male? I don't know. Francis Lasner said, hard bastard is my nig ga. So there are hyphens in there. So there we go. That's what I got, man. Did you have any closing thoughts on this? I mean, it's been a wild weekend for you.
Oh yeah, I'm like, I crawled into bed like pathetic. I've been up for like 30 hours, and things kind of slowed down, and the numbers were dropping. So I was like, okay, the crest has been peaked, and now there's enough. It's been decentralized hard enough where there are other sources than just this. So I went to bed, and I woke up, and the site was slowed to a crawl because I had configured things to work a specific way to handle 33,000 people. And it cost overall performance on low load. So I had to reconfigure it back to what it was before. It was intense. And the thing is, I don't even think like the worst of it has arrived yet. Because if people are pissed, they could like I don't even know. I was thinking about this before. Like, what would I change my name to, or not my name, but the site name, if if Kiwi Farmers sued us for trademark infringement or something in the U.S. And I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about like, okay, well now is there a chance that as if this goes really big in New Zealand news, that this website called Kiwi Farms, not associated with New Zealand in any way, is sharing this video and making fun of the country and calling it a shithole? Are New Zealand grow operations for produce there going to get litigious in the United States? So but I already have plans for that. Like, what would I ask for? How would I negotiate with them to try and finagle money out of them to just buy the domains and stuff, and move the actual site content to something else that would be more future proof.
Sure, sure. That seems. I don't know that they could get that. I don't know that they could get that from you. But maybe they
I mean,
could.
the thing is, there's outrage power behind it, so that kind of greases things in their favor. And I think in general, it would be a completely uphill battle. But the thing is, I'm willing to play ball. If they're going to give me like $100,000 for the domain name, so that I stop besmirching their companies and stuff, and I would take it.
As your lawyer, I recommend that you up that to 250,000. I'm just kidding. Obviously I'm not your lawyer. I'm joking.
Well,
It's a
yes,
joke.
if the time comes, I will consult people who know business and law better than I do, because I would want to. It's a big deal. It would be a huge deal if that were to happen.
Yeah,
Uh,
you'd have to have a transition period where you let people know where to find
yes,
the new
yeah,
site and all sorts of stuff. And maybe you could even negotiate a demand that they add a link in on their page for the original Kiwi Farms has migrated to this new
yeah. I
website.
was thinking of like an interstitial site where it's just like, do you mean these great New Zealand produce companies, or do you mean this website, which is now, whatever, the Pee Wee Barnes, the Banana Hut, whatever.
That'd be good. Okay, so there are a couple chats that came in and they pertain to you. Taco Jones says, "Can Josh promote himself?" So one more time, where can people find you? Obviously, they can go to kiwifarms.net, but you've got mattattheinternet.com, right? Is that it?
Yes, mattattheinternet.com is the Dick Masterson enabled site, which is fantastic.
Yes, go there, subscribe, pay money to Josh because not needs it, but deserves it, earns it. He earns it. Someone, oh yeah, that was another thing that the stupid chick on Twitter was saying. First of all, I did not invite her on my show, but someone else said she should go on. She said that I couldn't afford her appearance fee, which is funny because, like, one, I wouldn't pay you anything. Two, you're not invited. But someone asked her about the appearance fee, and she said, "I deserve to get paid for my work, just like these YouTube hustlers." And what's the best part of that is I don't think she understands that none of us think we deserve a dime. Um,
I'm sure
you know,
some of them do.
well, I mean, yeah.
Speak for yourself, sir.
Okay, some people do. I don't deserve anything. I hope to God that people find the value in what I provide to give me money for it. But like this is the difference in mentality between people and sub people, right? Is that sub people think that they're owed something by the world, and other people go out and try and make themselves worth something to the world. So, oh,
Yeah.
what a sad excuse for a human. Bagel Goose says, "Null, show toes." So
No.
Solo Beverly, I AFK'd for a bit. Did you read my $10 chat? I did. Lightened One says, "Get on the Hard News Network. He'll shill for Vic." There you go. And Schwanz Gruberman says, "Ask Josh where our guy BB is at." Where's our guy BB? Does he mean BB Netanyahu?
No, he does not. The only video I've ever had taken down besides the stream on JY that never happened was on Chantal, and in Chantal's stream, I mentioned that she, as a Canadian, was dating for many years I believe he is from Ghana, or he's from some West African country, and his name is BB, and everybody thinks that he would dated her for permanent residence visas.
Ah.
But he went back home for Christmas in 2008, and he has not been on any video since. And she says that he came back and it just hasn't had him on video. But the rumors are that he got his permanent residence visa and has been opting not to live with her, or has just left, just given up on the dream of becoming Canadian, and is back in Ghana happy with his family.
Oh man.
So I don't know where he's at. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Someone made an evil Jew powers meme for us, so let me bring that over. Wait, I could just screen share this. Yeah. All right. We'll screen share this real quick, and then we'll finish up the chats. Here you go. There's the evil Jew powers gif from Liz Reptile. Okay, let's see. Liz Reptile says, "Quick, Nick, check your Twitter. I made a gif for you and Josh, showing evil Jew powers." Bagel Goose says, "Show toes, coward." So he's calling you out.
Ah,
You turn that camera on and show us those sweet balance knockers
my
you got down
my
there.
toes are dirty right now because I haven't swept my floor in a while. So you don't want to see them. Trust me.
Some people like it.
No. Don't even.
Bill Cyber says, "I keep hearing about gay ops in regard to the Vic thing. What is that? Like missions that can only be done by homosexual commandos, basically. Sir, terrorist fashion designers have hijacked a nuclear sub. My God, send them in." Yeah, gay ops is an internet term for basically just behind the scenes hijinks to damage someone, and they happen all the time, constantly, and it's really embarrassing that they do. All right, let's wrap it up, man. Well, I thank you for coming on the stream tonight. I always enjoy chatting with you, and I'm glad that you have not been thrown in a a Maori prison or whatever.
What's funny is that that article from that New Zealand website called it Aotearoa or something. It was the strangest shit, and I thought that was the name of like the area that Christchurch is in. But no, that's the Maori word for the country. The islands is Aotearoa or something, and it's crazy to me.
Weird, man. Oh gosh, one more came in. Bagel Goose says, "I'll suck those toes clean."
No!
Show toes.
It's preposterous. I'm glad that the mere thought of my toes is making you so much money, Nick.
And then Y says gay ops equals civil conspiracy. Yeah, it very well could be. Very well could be. Well, thanks, man, again for coming on. I'm glad that the farm stands. The farm stands for everything the farm should stand for. People give you guys hell for all sorts of stuff, like, oh, they allow doxing, which you can make your own ethical decisions about doxing, but it's largely not illegal in the United States. And you guys are necessary to protect speech, and it's funny that you are necessary to protect speech. I bet that was not a consideration when you made the site.
No, my goal was to laugh at Christian Western Chandler. That was it.
That's all it takes.
All I want to do now, my whole goal at the site is to cultivate a type of community that, if it were to be blotted out of existence, there would be thousands and thousands of young people aged 18 to 24 who would be in the position to create their own splinters, and it would propagate that way, which is why I try to be as accepting of all peoples. We're a very diverse community, and I try to keep it that way despite protests, because I think that enables that goal to as much as possible, is by making it as open as possible.
Yep, there you go. And just for the record, no, and you can confirm this, I do not have a Kiwifarms account, right?
Nothing I know of. I can't say to any certainty,
I
but as
thought
far as I
there was like
know,
an approval process or something.
no. Anybody can join. And, I can't stop you from joining as what's that guy's name? Rick Nikita.
Rick
I can't
Nikita, yeah.
stop you from joining from that with like a picture of you with those fake glasses with the nose and the eyelashes.
Yeah.
Your avatar. I can't. And even then, if somebody literally did that, I would not be able to say with any certainty that it's actually you. Though, if people do join with the name of a person who is relevant to the forum, I ask them to change it because I don't want impersonation. Because I think that it's counterproductive to have imposters. So I would verify it or ask people to change it in that instance.
Well, I've been accused and besmirched of having a Kiwifarms account several
Slandered.
times, and
Learn the word.
slandered. I've been slandered of having a Kiwifarms account. I actually don't. I don't. I go there frequently, but no, I don't have a Kiwifarms account. I don't think. I don't think it's my place to post on there, but it's certainly my place to observe it. That's and I think it's valuable. So
I'll take your word for it. That's all I
keep
got.
keep it up and stay humble, brother. And yeah. Thank you to the chat. Oh, God, there's a couple more that came in. Schwanz Gruberman, ask if Josh would bury his face into Chantel's backside if she was puking on the toilet.
No, because that's how you get splattered with mud. That's how you get dumped on. You don't want that.
Ugh, that's gross. Sakaki Onsai says, "Okay, brain, what are we doing tomorrow night?" I guess the same thing we do every night, right? Like we try to law explain the world. I don't know. M-Spec says there's nothing wrong with doxing. Is that supposed to be MSPX? Anyway,
MSPX is how I pronounce it.
Yeah, you gotta make up your mind on it. There are lots of things that are not correct that are legal, but people have to decide that. And some people think that doxing everybody means that doxing has no power, and other people disagree. I prefer not to be doxxed beyond what is out there publicly already, but there's not much you can do about a lot of this stuff. What you can't do is like try and sue the Kiwifarms over and over and then try to get disciplinary actions against a lawyer who laughs at you.
Or send threatening emails from a foreign country.
Right. Amtank finally, Null is cow, dead mouse. So there you go. All right, guys. Well, thanks so much for the great stream. Thanks, Josh. And I'll say goodbye to the chat, and then I'll say goodbye to you in just a second. And then we'll see you guys tomorrow night. I'm not sure what's happening. I'm going to try and get the 40K stream this week, and I'm going to try and arrange some very good guests this week as well. So stay tuned, and we'll talk soon. Peace.
Yep. Take it easy, chat.